the Bronx Bombers of old, but yet here they are, a game and a half out of first place.
And as bad as the Yankee offense has been, the Red Sox offense has been even worse. They have made a move. As of last night, they brought up Mookie Betts, their top prospect, and Buster, he'll make his major league debut tonight.
That's right. And when I reached out to scouts on Saturday and said, tell me about this hitter, what they said is that Betts is an unusual hitter in how he commands the strike zone. Think about these numbers. In the last year and a half in the minor leagues, he has 88 extra base hits, 90 strikeouts, 132 walks, and 67 stolen bases. No, he doesn't hit for power, but the Red Sox front office looks at this team and sees that they're ranked 27th out of 30 teams in run scored, and they figure, you know what, we just need good hitters. By the way, his parents, who named him after basketball player Mookie Blaylock, have made the trip from Tennessee to see their son, Dan.
All right, Buster, thank you. So Mookie Betts in the lineup tonight for the Red Sox, making his major league debut, a bottom part of the lineup that has given this team almost nothing in recent weeks.
Yeah, and besides David Ross' home run in yesterday's game off of Masahiro Tanaka, getting nothing from the bottom half of the order, 6 through 9. Stephen Drew struggling. Now they put in Mookie Betts. They're hoping hitting eighth. He can give a spark to the bottom of that lineup that is, like you said, Dan, has given them absolutely nothing. Amazingly, though, they think they're still in it. They think that Toronto had a chance to run with it. They didn't. They kept them close. They think they're ready to go on a run. I don't know, Dan.
Half a season to go, and obviously a lot of the same names and faces who were part of a World Championship team just a year ago for the Red Sox. Yankees and Red Sox, the rubber match of a 3-game series coming up from the Bronx. John Lackey and Chase Whitley, the pitching matchup. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. Only Sunday night baseball. The Red Sox and Yankees from Yankee Stadium on a picture-perfect evening as the Red Sox, fresh off a 2-1 win last night under John Farrell, try to take the series and inch a little bit closer to the three teams ahead of them in the American League East. Let's take a look tonight at the Red Sox starting lineup. It is brought to you by Taco Bell. Brock Holt, as always in the last month or so, leading off, and what a contributor he's been. Daniel Nava, hot as about anybody can get since he's come back from the minors. And there is Mookie Betts, major league debut in right field and batting eighth tonight for Boston. And getting a little pep talk from Johnny Gomes before the game as Chase Whitley gets ready to make his ninth start of the season for the Yankees.
Well, Chase Whitley, I'm sorry, is a guy that he doesn't go deep into games, Dan, but they love his competitiveness. They love the fact that he throws strikes. He's not afraid to pitch to contact, not overpowering. Developed a slider, Joe Girardi told us, between last year and this year, and that's why he's in the rotation now with all the injuries.
Mark Wegner, our home plate ump. And we are underway here in the Bronx. We're going to let you in on the roll call here at Yankee Stadium. Ellsbury's attention occupied at the moment, but after the pitch, we'll acknowledge the fans. Everybody with their own little personal way of acknowledging. And then this one they've been doing for 20 years. Nice diving stop by Teixeira for the first out of the game, rudely interrupting the roll call.
Can't believe they would swing at that pitch, knowing that they're on roll call for Derek Jeter.
And away you go. The roll call around the diamond for the Yankees.
They don't do the catcher or the pitcher?
I guess they don't do the catcher. Did we not hear Brian McCann? I think you're right. One out as Holt is retired, and here's Nava, hitting just .216 on the season, but hitting .333 since coming back from the minors. And if you're hot, you get moved up in the order for Boston right now, and he's gone from being in Pawtucket to hitting second for the Red Sox, who are right down near the bottom in so many different offensive categories in the American League.
Everything that they were the best at last year, they're near the worst in the American League this year.
I guess the big question, if you're a Red Sox fan, is can that change? Will it change in the second half of the season? A combination of veterans who have been through it before, but also a lot of young players right now. Bogart's slumping, not in the lineup tonight, but still a big part of the team. And Brock Holt, and as of tonight, Mookie Betts.
And Jackie Bradley Jr. is another guy that's struggled all year offensively for the Boston Red Sox.
Into right center, that's a base hit for Nava. And now Pedroia. 3 hits in the game last night, hitting .268 on the season.
I talked to him before the game, and he was watching tape, but I'm not sure what kind of tape he was watching. But he said he's not big on his own mechanics. He just worries what the pitcher's throwing to him.
That's funny because some guys only are worried about their mechanics and don't really care to know much about the pitcher.
No, he said he'll make the adjustments during the game, but I asked him about hitting the low ball, how he does it with his legs when most guys do it with their hands. And he said, well, I'm short, and so I have to have some sort of leverage, so I have to go down and get it.
Well, if you ever want to hear about Dustin Pedroia. Talk to his former manager Terry Francona. Get him going. Tito will talk all day and all night about this guy.
Yeah. Tito's the one who wanted to send him out his rookie year. We won't bring that up because he's watching. I mean, he's a very aggressive swinger. He loves the high ball. He loves the ball in, which he attributed to his short arms, and here they come in. Yeah, there's no getting cheated with him, even though he's short in stature. And look how he tries to bring his hands in. He looked like he was trying to shoot that ball to right field because it looked like it beat him inside a little bit. That's you'll see that with Derek Jeter too. And they think they're getting beat inside, they pull their hands in and just try to shoot it to right field.
Pedroia suffered a wrist injury back on the night of the home opener, and as has been much discussed, especially in New England, the power numbers are down. He has always been a tough out with 2 strikes. And that proves to be the case again here. Base hit into left field, and the Red Sox have 2 men on with a 1 out. And now here comes a guy who put on an absolute show during batting practice before the game tonight.
Yeah, it was impressive. It looked like to me it was a little tune-up to the home run derby. His last couple rounds were about as impressive as you can find.
He hit one down the right field line, fair, off the facing above the second deck. So the facing to the third deck, I guess you would say, where the private boxes are. I mean, you don't see balls hit there very often. And I mean, he was letting it fly. Now, 62 miles an hour is different than 92 miles an hour.
Yeah, and throwing it where you want him to. I don't think Chase Whitley's going to throw it where he wants it just yet.
Up and away, ball 1.
Talking to Pedroia before the game, it was interesting. I said, "What are you watching?" I saw him down on the computer watching. So I said, "What are you watching?" He goes, "Me laying out ropes." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
And he falls behind the dangerous Ortiz, 2-0. This is the first time Whitley has faced the Red Sox. Whitley has done a nice job for the Yankees for a guy who was unheralded and only plugged into the rotation because of a number of injuries. His last start was his worst start. He was roughed up by the Blue Jays, but it was the second time in consecutive starts that he had faced the Blue Jays. The Red Sox haven't seen him yet. 3-0.
And David Ortiz is struggling against rookie pitchers this year. One of the worst batting averages in baseball, or for his career, I mean, against rookie pitchers. But 3-0. You want to venture this guess, or do you want me to do it?
That he's got the green light?
I would say he does, yes. Picking this game up quick, aren't you?
1 and 2. 3-0, 4-6-3. Inning over. To the bottom of the first here at Yankee Stadium, we'll see Derek Jeter coming up for the New York Yankees here in the Bronx.
Swung on and hit in the air to deep left. That goes high. It is far. It is gone. And there it is. Hit number
Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Chevrolet. Find new roads. And Goodyear, chosen by experts for superior performance. Goodyear, more driven. A look at Central Park as we bring you back to New York City. We're in the Bronx here at Yankee Stadium, going to the bottom of the first. Derek Jeter will bat second for the Yankees in a scoreless game here on Sunday Night Baseball.
Well, the way these two teams' offense has been going, Dan, scoreless might be a thing you're saying often.
They have
we'll
struggled.
See.
Here's the Yankees starting lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. And McCann has not hit like he can. Beltran's had an injury, and he has not hit like he is capable of. They're not getting a lot out of Brian Roberts out of the second base position. So the Yankees are 12th out of 15 teams in runs per game. The Red Sox are 13th. They're actually last in overall runs, but by the tiniest of margins, they're ahead of a couple of teams in runs per game. So you're looking at 12th and 13th out of 15. These two teams in offense.
Yeah, that's what's amazing, because usually they're right at the top 1, 2, or in the top 5 anyway. And this year it's just been it's been a struggle for both teams.
John Lackey on the mound. Broke in for the Angels back in 2002, and he is having another very good season. Second consecutive good year in a row for the Red Sox. Strike taken 1-1 on Brett Gardner. Lackey's a workhorse, 107 innings already, 8-5, a 3.45 ERA, and a strikeout to walk ratio of better than 4-1. And right there at 93 for called strike 2 to Gardner, who's having a fine season, hitting .289 and a little more pop than people give him credit for.
Well, he's not tall, but he's a very strong young man. And yeah, you look at the numbers, and you thought this is something he was capable of doing. He just had to stay healthy, and this year he has.
Bradley in center, one down. That'll bring up Jeter.
Number 2, Derek Jeter.
And as always, brought to the plate by the late great Bob Shepard, who was the PA announcer here for so many years, so many of Jeter's years, and they have retained that recording of Shepard bringing Jeter to the plate, and it's always used when Jeter bats here in the Bronx. Hitting .272, hitting .333 over his last 16 games. Turned 40 on Thursday. And a base hit. And not a shocker, Crucky. He goes the other way.
No, he's got almost 3,400 hits, and I venture to guess that 2,800 of them have gone that way. It's just an unbelievable ability to use your hands in situations where you have to hit them. And John Lackey, look, trying to get ahead, fastball down the middle, but watch the hands, how they track to the ball, stay inside, lags behind. He said he likes to let the ball get deep, and that way he can shoot it that way to right field. And I mean, if you've ever watched a Yankee baseball game, you have seen that before.
That is career hit number 3,392. A one-out single for Jeter. That'll bring up Ellsbury, a former member of the Red Sox, who signed a big 7-year deal with the Yankees in the offseason. Jeter, by the way, is 9th on the all-time hit list. If he stays healthy, he'll wind up 6th at the end of the year. Sharply hit ground ball to short. It's his second one. Pedroia on to first in time to turn the 6-4-3 inning-ending double play. A 7-pitch inning for Lackey. Scoreless through 1 in the Bronx. Welcome back to the Bronx. No score. The Red Sox and the Yankees as we go to the top of the second inning. Mike Napoli, who hit the big home run in the 9th inning last night for the Red Sox, his 10th of the season, will lead it off against right-hander Chase Whitley. And Chase Whitley, in something we saw last week from Yu Darvish, is working from the stretch with nobody on base.
Well, it's pretty much his entire minor league career he has been a relief pitcher, and that apparently is the way he feels comfortable.
Only 8 minor league starts, but a starter this year with the Yankees.
How do you figure that? The Yankees, of all teams, have a guy who's been a relief pitcher, predominantly a relief pitcher, his entire minor league career, and now he's a starter.
15th round pick out of Troy University in 2010. Before that, attended a junior college, Southern Union State. I mean, this was not a guy really on the radar, so to speak. But Nova out, Sabathia out, Pineda out, Phelps in, Nuno in, and Whitley in. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count on Napoli. The same count that he faced against Tanaka last night when he homered. And a fly ball lifted high in the air down the left field line. It's going to drop in fair. And it'll be a double for Napoli. Gardner was away over toward left center field, and even with his speed and with a hang time of that ball, he couldn't get there. Last night, facing Tanaka, tie game, 9th inning. The first pitch in the at bat was a ball, and a slider for a swing and a miss to make it 1-1. Then here comes the devastating splitter, and it's 1-2. And with 2 strikes, you expect another splitter, but he got a fastball and he hit it out.
Yeah, and he struck him out. The two at bats prior to that on the splitter in the dirt that Napoli was chasing pretty much the whole night, and it was one of those things where he probably knew, this is my last pitch of the game. I'm going to rear back and throw it as hard as I can throw it. And Mike Napoli said thank you.
And did, among other things. He also said, and this has been much publicized nationally, but especially in Boston and New York in the last 24 hours, he also yelled a few times as he greeted his teammates in the dugout, "What an idiot, what an idiot," over and over. A competitive guy in a competitive moment, but even Napoli was shocked that he didn't get the splitter, a pitch he had struck out on twice earlier in the game. As Brzezinski bounces another one foul. Let's go down to Buster for more.
And guys, you mentioned competitive moment, competitive person. I'll give you another example. Before Saturday's start, Tanaka said to fellow countryman Koji Uehara, the closer for the Red Sox, "Don't even bother donning your spikes because you won't get a save opportunity." This is what these guys do.
And Uehara, of course, did. And converted it. He did get that save last night. A much-needed win for the Red Sox. As Brzezinski fouls it off, do you think, however many more years they may face each other with the majors, do you think Tanaka ever throws Napoli a 2-strike fastball?
No. I don't know why you would. You wonder what the thought process of was him on his part, because McCann wanted the splitter, the slider, or both, or one or the other, but nothing hard, because you have to remember who was hitting behind him. Stephen Drew's been struggling, and you don't want Napoli to beat you. You get through Ortiz, that's a guy you don't want to beat you. Once you get past him, okay, now we turn our attention to Napoli. We don't want Mike Napoli to beat us. And he threw a 1-2 fastball. He thought he could throw it by him. He said, probably thought he has to be looking for the splitter or the slider, so I'm going to throw a fastball up and by him. And fastball hitters hit fastballs, Dan, and that's what Mike Napoli did last night.
Brzezinski, who's been struggling, 4 for his last 38. Looks a fly ball to deep right center. Ichiro will make the catch, but an easy tag in advance for Napoli. Almost looked like Ellsbury, Ichiro looking at each other a little bit. It took a little while for somebody to take charge out there.
I'm not sure that Jacoby Ellsbury picked the ball up off the bat because of the, it's not dark yet. There's still a little brighter sky, but not that bright. But Ichiro comes over, you see the veteran calling him off, but you can tell Jacoby Ellsbury didn't pick it up because he saw where the ball was headed off the bat, but then he lost it, and he was just kind of jogging aimlessly and hoping Ichiro could get there.
So now in the second inning,
with a runner at third and one out. The infield comes in for the Yankees, and the batter is Stephen Drew. You mentioned he's struggling. That's an understatement. He is 1 for his last 34. He's 7 for 56 overall since the Red Sox signed him to that $10 million deal a few weeks ago.
That is a little more struggling, isn't it?
He's a good defensive player. So they've got him out there at shortstop most of the time. But John Farrell has alluded to the fact, you know, Betts is an infielder playing the outfield. Holtz is an infielder playing the outfield, although he's at third tonight. Bogarts has played short and third. They'll move people around to try to find somebody who can swing the bat.
Yeah, they're trying to find something. I even mentioned about Brock Holt possibly playing some shortstop sometime soon. But, you know, this is a situation right here where you're Stephen Drew. You're probably going up to the plate thinking to yourself, after he fouls that pitch off to make it 1-2, he's probably thinking, all right, great. Second inning, all I have to do is hit a ground ball and I can drive in a run, because, you know, hits are pretty rare. And then they bring the infield in, and now he's like, oh, now I have to hit something hard on the line or elevate something and try to lift it into the outfield.
Changeup misses up and away 2-2. Whitley used to be known as a fastball changeup pitcher, used the changeup a lot, but he's really worked a lot, especially since he's become a starter, on the slider, and the slider has become a very important pitch for him, more so though against right-handed batters than left-handed batters.
Yeah, there's only a couple pitchers that can start games with only 2 pitches, and both of them have over 300 wins and are headed to Cooperstown. And Maddox and Glavine are the only 2 I mean, you know, Maddox every once in a while would throw a curveball or slider, whatever it was, but he was basically fastball, 2-seamer, 4-seamer, and change up, and Glavine was the same. And it's tough with, you know, nowadays you need at least 3 pitches. Some of them have 6 and 7 and 8, which apparently that can get confusing.
2-2 as Drew tries to battle and drive in the first run of the night. Up and in, and the count is full.
That could be something that lights a fire under Stephen Drew. Little chin music. Maybe that get you to bear down. See there?
Got a piece, but barely.
There's the Whitley changeup, and look at that thing dart down and away from Stephen Drew. That's one of those you just, as soon as you start swinging, you're praying that it goes foul.
And a base hit. One nothing Red Sox.
See the influence Mookie Betts has already had on the lineup. Stephen Drew with a base hit, but you know, with the infield drawn in, of course, I don't think if Teixeira was back he could have gotten that one either way, but hard hit ball by Stephen Drew has to make him feel good, and now we get to see the debut of Mookie Betts.
First big league at bat for the 21-year-old, who between AA and AAA this year was hitting .345. And he takes the slider low for ball 1. Dad Willie, Mom Diana, fiance Brianna here in the Bronx. Betts never played above A ball before this season, but has rocketed through the last couple of levels with a great couple of months. Red Sox have a need. They hope he's the answer. Buster talked about it in the pregame show. Not a big home run hitter, but a guy who will hit for average, hit the gaps. He's got a lot of speed, a doubles and triples guy.
Puts the ball in play, which is seemingly a rare thing now, and when young kids come up to the big leagues. A lot of strikeouts, but not for him. That was the most nervous thing when you're making your debut. The last thing you know, if you go 0 for, you go 0 for. If you hit a ball hard, get a couple hits. Getting signs. because I would imagine that their AA, AAA team have the same signs as the big league team. A lot of times they don't, though.
Bouncer to third. There's one. And Betts grounds into a double play in his first major league at bat. The Red Sox, though, do get a run and take a 1-0 lead to the bottom of the second.
Baseball presented by Taco Bell.
Well done, Frank.
I'm learning from the best, my friend.
Mark Teixeira leads off the bottom of the second. The Red Sox up 1-0 on the Yankees. Teixeira hitting .243 with a team-leading 14 home runs. And he hits one off the end of the bat just to the left side of second and will be thrown out for out number one. Drew making the play, so 6-3 on the putout. Aerial coverage tonight brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. You want to read that one later on? We got two more of those tonight.
That's a lot of words. I can't pull it off like you can. I just don't have that voice.
The crew has the utmost confidence in you. We want to raise the degree of difficulty a little bit for you.
Well, give me a shorter one.
It's like 2.5 lines.
Yeah.
Here's Brian McCann. McCann hitting .224, 9 homers, 36 RBIs. Joe Girardi said to us before the game, look at the production. The power and the RBIs halfway through the season. If you ignore the batting average, then it's a pretty good year. Now, of course, people don't do that. No. Fans don't do that, but this is kind of common when a player of McCann's stature signs a big deal with a new team, whether they put some pressure on themselves to justify the big contract. But you see kind of an adjustment period often when big-time players switch teams.
And especially a catcher, because he has to learn his whole pitching staff, their likes, their dislikes, what they want to throw in certain situations. He's spent most of the offseason after signing with the Yankees looking at tapes of all the pitchers and their starts from last year, and you can see the confusion. He's been late on every lackey fastball in this at bat, and then the breaking ball, he's ahead of it. He'll roll it over to second base or first base. His timing is just off right now. you got to trust what's on the back of the baseball card. And hopefully he can pull out of this.
Takes the slider inside, and it's a full count.
Lackey threw a fastball by him for strike 2. I don't know why you would go away from it right here.
And he draws the walk. In theory, the changes the Yankees made should have helped their offense coming into the season
immensely.
Right, but McCann hasn't hit the way that he's capable of, and Beltran, with an injury in the mix, has not hit the way that he's capable of, or has hit over the years.
Soriano,
yep,
hasn't really hit that well.
Now Beltran's an older player. Soriano's an older player. Jeter's an older player.
Yeah, Jeter only played 17 games last year, so you can, for him to be hitting in the 270s, I think is remarkable at 39 years old.
40 as of Thursday.
Yeah, but I mean, most of his hits came when he was 39 this year.
I tend to agree with you. I think people expecting Jeter to do more. He's a 40-year-old shortstop, which is almost unprecedented in baseball history.
He's a 40-year-old shortstop who basically set out an entire season, and he's hitting 270, and people are like, oh, they got to, he's not hitting for power. He's not. He's 40, and he had his ankle broken twice.
3-0 green light for Beltran.
Yeah, they might turn him loose because he's struggling, but.
Took a strike, 3-1.
Joe was talking to someone down there. He forgot to give the sign, I think. Oh, that's when you know that a guy is just not seeing it, struggling, guessing wrong. I mean, that's a 3-1 pitch, a fastball that normally Carlos Beltran would try to just hit it over the right field fence as far as he can hit it, and he took that ball right out of A.J. Brzezinski's glove.
Pedroia. And not in time at first, as we almost had our 4th double play in as many half innings, but Beltran is safely across to the fielder's choice.
Well, again, it's a fastball that Beltran wasn't quite as late as before, but still late, hit it off the label. And again, even though he's at his elder age, he still gets down the line. But look at Pedroia. If he catches that ball, he has to take 2 steps before he can turn and throw, do the 360 turn and throw. Instead, he the pop-up slide, gets it to Stephen Drew. Quick enough. Beltran, though, just too quick down the line to get it, but he gave them a chance to turn that double play.
So now Kelly Johnson, the third baseman, hitting .229, 5 homers. Homered on Friday night, his first home run in about 7 weeks. A guy whom they expected to really take advantage of that short porch in right field. To play first, second, third. There's a curveball from Lackey in for a strike. And right now, basically a platoon at third base for the Yankees, with Johnson facing righties and Yangervis Solarte, who got off to a great start, but has cooled down, facing lefties.
I think the 40-year-old's the only one that hit his fastball. Everyone else is late on it.
And he misses high, full count. So Beltran will be on the move. Napoli telling Lackey that he's not going to hold the runner. He'll play behind him now. Unbelievable is what he just said.
Yeah, unbelievable. He's normally a guy who could command his fastball, and this at bat against Kelly Johnson. He's thrown a couple, not even close.
Runner goes, swing and a miss at a curveball to get him and end the inning. 1-0. The Red Sox lead the Yankees here in New York. Top third, 1-0 Red Sox. Jackie Bradley Jr., the number 9 hitter, will lead it off. Bradley hitting .206. It is Xander Bogaerts out of the lineup tonight. Brock Holt's versatility gives John Farrell some options to try to find as many hitters as he can find who might actually get hot. Nobody's hot, or virtually nobody's hot, especially at the bottom of the order for the Red Sox. You know, Holt can play all over the field. He started in 5 different spots. Bogaerts has started in 2 spots. Betts, making his major league debut tonight, an infielder who has played a lot of center with the minors. He's starting in right tonight. So you better swing it, or you might not play. This is the one guy who's going to play, it seems, every day.
Yeah, no matter what position, he will be in that lineup at the leadoff spot, because we documented it the last time we had the Red Sox before Brock Holt moved in that, as he was just moving into that leadoff spot, and it was, the numbers were ugly.
And you talked about whoever would have thought the Yankees would rely on a guy like a Chase Whitley, 15th round pick, not on the rate. I mean, Brock Holt's not like he came up as a first round pick, big bonus baby, nothing like that. And now he's become an indispensable player for them over the last several weeks.
I talked to a couple guys on the team, and they said he's about as close to Pedroia as you're going to find, as far as grinding it out, do whatever he can to win, getting dirty.
Bradley retired. Well, you talked about all the guys hitting in all different kinds of places. Look at them defensively. 8 different right fielders, 6 different first basemen, 5 each at third and left. They've had 5 or more players hit leadoff, hit third, hit cleanup, where you usually like and expect to see some stability. And they've got the worst offense in the American League in the month of June, under 3 runs per game. Hard to fathom.
Dustin Pedroia, speaking to him before the game, and the beauty that is Dustin Pedroia said, look, if we're not going to score runs, we need to pitch better. Well, yeah, it's a very, it's a good thought.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure the pitchers would like to have 3.5 runs a game, maybe.
And if they have any chance of getting back into it, and as crazy as it seems, they're only 6.5 games out of first place right now. But if they're going to get back into it, they got to hit. They got to hit a lot more.
Yes, they have to, because the weather's starting to turn now. The balls start flying a little better in the warm weather. If they don't start scoring runs, you can't ask the starting pitching to hold them to 2 or 3 runs every game.
Again, the way the American League East is this year, it is somewhat wide open. Nobody seems to want to take it. Toronto's the one team that looked like they got on a real run. They went 20-4 in one stretch in May, and it looked like they were going to pull away. But they have played subpar baseball since. They lost again today. Baltimore lost today. So the Blue Jays have come back to the pack. And the Yankees are just kind of treading water, hanging around, and don't look now, they're a game and a half out.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like a team really likes being in first place. They get there, like Toronto, they made a big push, and you thought, my gosh, they're going to run away with this division. And then the next thing you know, they decide, well, they don't like it, let's go back with the rest of them, and here they are.
Holt draws a 1-out walk. Be sure to catch all of our MLB coverage this week, and there is a lot of it. A holiday week. Tomorrow night at 7 Eastern, the Rays are here in New York. The Red Sox host the Cubs Wednesday. 4th of July doubleheader for you from Minneapolis and Detroit, and then it'll be the Rays and Tigers again 1 week from tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Runner at first, 1 out, 1-0 Red Sox, and the batter was Daniel Nava. Nava had a base hit his first time up. Detroit's a team, and there we talked about Toronto having that great run coming back to the pack. Detroit's been streaky. The Giants had an incredible run. They got to 42-21. They lost again today. They were swept in a 4-game series by Cincinnati. And the Giants have come right back to the pack. The Dodgers won again today as they shut out St. Louis 6-0. Fly ball out for out number 2. The Dodgers have tied the Giants for the lead in the National League West. About the only 2 teams you can say have really been consistently strong this year are the Oakland A's and the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, and we kind of thought Oakland was going to be good. We had an idea because of what they've done in the past few years. Milwaukee improved their pitching staff. Of course, getting Kyle Loesch a full spring training after signing late last year, and he didn't pitch that well last year. But yeah, then they go out and get Matt Garza. They kept Giovanni Gallardo. Carlos Gomez is trying to be the MVP of the league.
Oakland won again today, beat Miami 4-3. Tommy Milone got the win. Nate Freeman, who they just called up from the minors because Josh Reddick went on the DL, he'll fit in nicely. Hit a 3-run homer today for the
That's
A's.
all they do.
Yeah. And the Giants with that loss to Cincinnati. This is hard to believe. San Francisco has lost 15 out of 19 after getting to 42-21 on the season. And Sergio Romo removed from the closer's role. He's had a rough couple of weeks. Runner is going. Pitch bounce to the right side and through. And Holt will come around to third on a ground ball base hit for Pedroia.
Dustin Pedroia loves the high ball. There's no question about it, and he lights it in. But with Brock Holt running right here, there's a big hole opened up. Watch how he just brings those hands in, flips him at the ball at the last second. The ball would beat him, and he flipped his bat, got it there quicker to the hitting area, and that's all you need. When Teixeira's holding the guy on first baseman, you don't need to hit it hard. You just need to hit it in that direction. It'll go through.
So first and third, 2 down for David Ortiz, who grounded into a double play his first time up. Already 5 hits on the night for the Red Sox. They lead 1-0.
Here's where David needs to be patient. He got a little over anxious with the 3-0 pitch. hit into that double play. And that's patient. It's a ball inside, and he just whipped it into the Yankee dugout. At least you don't have to worry about the 3-0 count now.
Ortiz 2 extra base hits away from 1,000 in his career.
And a high, towering drive headed for the seats in deep right center and gone.
That was patient.
That was power. Nineteenth of the season, 4-0 Red Sox. Career home run number 450, and it was a no-doubter.
You see the fastball by Chase Whitley. Wanted it again in. Hoping Ortiz would foul it off, but that ain't a foul off right there. That looked like his BP. Yep. His batting practice today. Look where this ball goes. It goes in that second row of seats over that big Modell sign out there. That's a, oh my gosh, that's a dream to hit one that far.
Just the 3rd home run that Whitley has given up. This is his 9th start, but it was crushed.
Yeah, they probably thought, okay, we're sitting out here in right field. I don't know if we're going to get one out here this far. Big Poppy said, let me oblige you.
And here's Napoli. Doubled and scored last inning. Changeup down and in. 3 on the left side of the infield behind Whitley as he faces Napoli.
When a team learns how to shift out there in the bleachers, then you're going to have something.
Slider away, 3-1.
Yeah, don't throw him a fastball if you're the Yankee fan. 3-1. What could you walk him? You walk him. Throw a slider down and away and hope.
Pitch fouled off at a full count now in Napoli. Now the crowd's still buzzing, and not in a positive way for Yankee fans after that long home run from David Ortiz.
Oh, that got the home plate umpire, Mark Wegner.
And you can see Napoli and McCann both over to express their concern.
Brian McCann, of course, a catcher. Mike Napoli, a former catcher. They know the drill.
Ooh, right off the right forearm.
I mean, you see a lot of catchers with no one on base. They'll put that arm behind them to protect it. See his arm there fully exposed. Foul tip. Oh, man. It's amazing he's still in the game.
It is. He's going to fight through it. Game on.
Imagine after this game he's going to get an ice bag. I'm just guessing.
It's going to leave a mark.
He's going to leave a welt too, I would imagine.
Pops him up. Will it stay in play? It will not. Nice big crowd here tonight at Yankee Stadium for the finale of this 3-game series. Yankees will stay home for a series with the Rays beginning tomorrow night. The Red Sox will head home for a series with the Cubs beginning tomorrow night. Off the end of the bat, he drops it into center field, a base hit. As the Red Sox continue to do some damage, and the Yankee bullpen is busy already. Larry Rothschild is going to head to the mound, the pitching coach, to buy a little time and allow left-hander David Huff to get loose. We mentioned Whitley is coming off the worst start that he has made in the majors. Gave up 8 earned runs in 3 1/3 on Monday in Toronto. Prior to that, he had not given up more than 3 earned runs in any of his previous 7 starts. Only twice, though, Crucky, had he gone beyond 5 innings. He hadn't really gone deep into the game, usually throwing 80, 85 pitches or something like that, maybe twice through the order, and then Joe Girardi gets him out of there.
Yeah, and that's just because the stuff's not overpowering. It's not, Joe Girardi told us, he's a great competitor, and sometimes a great competitor, when your stuff doesn't match up with your competitiveness, he doesn't have the 95, he doesn't have the big breaking ball, he doesn't have that devastating slider. It's a good slider, but nothing. It's not a big strikeout slider, although AJ just proved me wrong. He has to pitch to location. You saw him throw a pitch, up and into Stephen Drew. You see him miss bad off the plate, getting behind David Ortiz 3-0 before he got the ground ball double play. But he has to be fine with his pitches. He has to be almost perfect with his pitches. And tonight so far he hasn't been.
Brzezinski lays off that changeup, and now they've got Napoli hung up. He strayed too far off first base and will be tagged out to end the inning. Still a productive inning, though, for the Red Sox. David Ortiz launches his 19th home run of the season deep to right center. 4-0 Boston. The Red Sox, after the David Ortiz home run, lead Derek Jeter and the Yankees 4-0. And Derek Jeter broke in at a young age, and in his 20s, look at some of the numbers he put up: over 1,600 hits, 773 wins, and he won 4 World Series championships. In his 30s, 1,769 hits, added over 800 wins and another championship. Only Jeter and Brooks Robinson playing in 750 or more wins in both their 20s and their 30s. Jeter closing in on 3,400 hits. What would be most important to him, of course, would be to go out in style and maybe see the Yankees get to October and make a run in October. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, he needs a 6th World Championship ring.
Can't even say 1 for the thumb. He's past that.
Yes.
He's due up 4th this inning. Had a base hit his first time up. This is Brian Roberts, the second baseman and number 8 hitter, hitting .237. Well, you got a chance and Crucky to talk hitting with Derek Jeter before the game. Not accomplishments, more about mindset and mechanics.
Yeah, and he said it's more about him than it is about the pitcher, what he does pregame. Said he has a game plan against every pitcher and he tries to execute that game plan, but he's not a big guy in watching video.
Upstairs, a ball and 2 strikes on Roberts. Now the way he does it is not for everybody, but it's certainly worked for him.
It's worked for him, and I talked to Mick Kelleher, the infield, first base coach, but infield coach for the Yankees. That almost got hit by that ball. That would have been funny. He is a good guy, but it still would have been funny. And he was telling me during the season that everyone talks about Derek struggling, and he struggles, and he's 40 years old, or he's going to be 40, and how's he going to do it? But he said he'll get hits with his hands and hands alone because he has such great hands at home plate. I mean, he hit a ball yesterday. I think if he would have swung and missed, it would have hit his back shoulder after the swing was completed, and he fouled it off, in between the first base coach and the first base line, and that to me is just great hands. Most guys are just going to get jammed and they'll accept it and break their bat and go get another one.
To left field, and Roberts is retired. Let's listen in before the game when Crucky asked Derek Jeter to talk a little bit about his hitting style.
My key is just try to wait as long as I can. A lot of times I'm fouling balls off the other way, and people think, oh, he's late. Well, it's by design. I have an approach. I stick with my approach, and I have confidence in it.
Yeah, and you see the approach. I mean, this is a fastball, middle in, and you see how he just keeps his hands inside and shoots it that way. But, when he told me he doesn't really study pitchers that much, he kind of has an idea what a guy wants to do, but he's not going to go against his game plan because his hands are already set to hit the ball the other way. And if they throw something slow, he can pull it. If they throw something, hard in, he can use his hands and just hit it the other way.
Ichiro will reach on what should be a throwing error charge to Brock Holt.
I think if your kid's watching this game tonight and someone tells you this is the way you should hit, I mean, watch Ichiro hit. I mean, this guy has over 4,000 hits in the United States and Japan in his career. You don't teach that. That ball's behind him, and he just slaps it the other way. Of course, Brock Holt, makes a good throw. He might be out at first base, but you don't get 4,000 hits in 2 different leagues by being a bad hitter, but he does it his own way. No one hits the same, and when kids are taught to hit the same as this is the way you're supposed to hit, to me it's wrong.
Brett Gardner takes outside ball 1. Gardner the leadoff hitter, Ichiro the number 9 hitter aboard on the air charge to Holt. Gardner flied out to center his first time up. Well, guys like Jeter and Ichiro, much more so when they were in their prime than now, it's so tough to pitch to because, the book would say, well, if you throw a pitch here, then the hitter will do this. Well, they didn't do that. They're both somewhat unconventional, Ichiro more than Jeter. But as you said, Jeter could take a pitch that might almost hit him and still hit it the other way. Ichiro can take a pitch that's almost behind him and hit it the other way.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's the way they have done it their whole life, or basically for their entire adult life. When they figured out this is the way I should hit, they stuck with it. You coach Little League, you coach baseball, you see it all the time. This is the way you're going to hit. I want everyone to hit like this. You can't do it. Look at Derek Jeter. He's 6'3". He's gained a difference of 5 pounds from the time he was a rookie to now. And then you have guys like myself who didn't quite stay at that 5-pound level. Ichiro's going.
Pitch is a strike, throw down, not in time. Yeah, that was both educational and entertaining when we were sitting in Joe Girardi's office before the game and somebody asked about Jeter being 5 pounds up 20 years later from when he broke in. And Joe Girardi's actually a lower weight now than when he broke in as a rookie, as a player. And you said you're up 5 or
50.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50. Let's go 50.
Well, you know why? What do you got over there? Reach.
I had to eat something.
You had to eat. It's been like an hour.
Yeah.
That's okay. Just everybody's different.
Everyone's different, and everyone hits different. Yeah. And if you try to make them hit alike, and some people eat differently than others,
right?
It's
just the way it is.
Everything in life.
Just the way it is. Yeah.
You can't do everything like everyone else.
Yeah. And it's possible your metabolism is somewhat different than that of Girardi.
It's been dormant for about 50 years right now, Dan.
Your metabolism just
shut down.
It gave up.
It did. When I was 12.
And Joe Girardi looks exactly like he looked 10 years ago.
Less hair, but yeah.
Well,
managing will do that, I guess. But yeah, it's amazing. And Derek told me today during batting practice, he said he lost the 5 pounds because he wanted to take some of the weight and stress off his ankle. I'm like, what a novel idea. I wish I would have thought of that.
He didn't invent that concept. That concept's been around for a while. So I'm not kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You think you might have cheese fries more often than Jeter and Girardi do?
Combined.
Yeah?
Combined.
What about Frickles?
I love fried pickles. I actually made some the other day.
Really?
Yeah. I love them. I never heard them called Frickles, though. I mean, they are what they are. They're fried pickles.
Yeah.
Let's not make it fancy. It's like hitting. It's like the load, the lock, the this, the that.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Make it, eat it.
Yeah.
That's.
I tell you what,
said that's a good steak out there.
The best steak I've ever had. I had that one about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. The best steak I've ever had.
If they brought one up to the booth, would you have one now?
Yeah. I mean, you have to sample. You can't be rude.
You don't want to be rude.
I mean, there's only one person here that would turn that down.
Hypothetically, how would you like it done if we're going to bring it?
Hypothetically, medium rare. I'd like to have a little, Oh, my. Oh, boy. See, I just gained 5 pounds watching.
Yeah. I believe you.
See, that's what you do between starts. That was Tanaka there setting it.
A lot of food temptation around the ballpark tonight, Clay.
Yeah. And if the Yankees don't start scoring, I'm going to be thinking about it a little more often.
9th pitch of the at-bat to Gardner. And there will be a 10th. And this is a guy who, when he first came up, again, even more so then than now, every player the Yankees had was a big name and a big contract. If you were a young player, this was the toughest team in baseball a few years ago to break in on. He had to bide his time a little bit until he got a chance and could prove to people that he could be not only an everyday player, but a good everyday player.
Yeah, but also be rewarded for it by being durable. He's been injured a lot, and there's a risk you take when you have a guy that has had injuries like Brett Gardner's had. But it seems like getting that long-term deal, he's become.
Napoli will feed Lackey for the out. 2 down as Ichiro takes third.
Feels more important to his team now that he has a long-term deal and he's comfortable.
Now here's Jeter for the second time. Had a base hit his first time up. Drafted 6th overall by the Yankees in 1992. And aren't 5 other teams kicking themselves over the last 20 years. Dick Groach, who compiled the original scouting report, called Jeter a blue chipper and a 5-tool player, said he will be a major league star. Let's go down to Buster.
Team with the first pick that year when Derek was a senior in high school in Michigan. was the Houston Astros, and their area scout was Hal Newhouser, the American League MVP in 1944 and 1945. His nickname was Prince Hal because he was very stately and understated generally. But when he filed his report to the Houston Astros, he told them Derek Jeter will be the centerpiece of a championship team for years to come. The Astros passed on Jeter, took Phil Nevin, and Hal Newhouser quit. His widow Burl told me, if I can't convince my team to take Derek Jeter, I can't convince anybody of anything.
So he quit baseball. He was done with the sport because of that.
Well, there are a lot of people who kept their jobs for making worse decisions. But, you know, high school, and back then it wasn't like they're using the bats they're using now. In college, you know, the composite bats that have the same resiliency as wood. I could imagine how hard it would be to draft.
Just outside, 2-2.
You have to remember, in Double-A, I believe, and he made 40 or 50 something errors.
I think it was single.
Single A.
It was down to low minors yet, where he. Pitch misses away again. 3-2. It was just 2 years ago. This was before the injury. During the regular season in 2012, Jeter led the majors with 216 hits 2 years ago when he was 38 years old.
And that's when a lot of people thought, you know, can he surpass Pete Rose? Can he get to 4,000, over 4,000 and catch Pete? But, you know, the ankle injury and the playoffs.
Paul Mahler, the only player with more hits at that age than Jeter had.
Yeah, and Paul Mahler at that point in his career was basically a full-time DH.
Yep.
Not playing shortstop, which
every game Derek Jeter has ever played in the field in his career has been at short. Never did an inning.
See?
First, third, center.
So that's why he wasn't drafted in first, because he's not versatile. He just figured it out.
One-dimensional guy.
One-dimensional. You can only play one position. He happens to be one of the most important ones in the field, but
and a check swing foul off there by Jeter. He'll earn another pitch. Now, was that I'm a little bit fooled. I can't do anything with it, so I'll flick it foul to get another one?
Well, you don't flick it foul. You hope it goes foul.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hit that off the bottom of the bat and dribble it right in front of home plate. Yeah, this is I don't want to swing. I shouldn't swing, but it might be a strike. I'm trying to hold up. Please go foul.
Here comes the 9th pitch of the at-bat.
You don't get 3,000 hits by keeping that one fair.
Well, how about Lackey? He needed 10 pitches to get Gardner, and this will be the 10th pitch that he throws to Jeter. Packed house in the Bronx. Red Sox and Yankees. Boston up 4-0, bottom of the third. Got to be frustrating for a pitcher.
Very frustrating, but he's missing his spot because AJ wants the ball down and away, which I never understood it with a guy with a natural inside-out swing. Why you would pitch him in? Because there's two things he can do with it. He can hit it to the left. He can hit it to right. A pitch down and away, a guy like a Derek Jeter, Tony Gwynn, guys like that, there's only one place they can hit it. They're not going to reach out and hook it. They're going to hit it that way. So I want you pitching down and away and play him away. AJ wants it down there.
And it's another 'another hit through the right side. 2 2 2
Ichiro in to score, and the Yankees are on the board.
AJ wanted the ball down and away, and it was just elevated just enough to Derek Jeter. I mean, this is it. I mean, you could picture that one. That was his first at bat, and now his second at bat's the same at bat.
And the frustration has turned into anger for John Lackey. 21 pitches to the last two batters, and Jeter gets him for a ground ball base hit that drives in a run.
Well, that's the beauty of John Lackey. He was angry, yelling, screaming at someone, something, himself, whoever.
Still,
but yet he comes back and he throws a curveball for strike one. And most guys would try to throw it through the building, or try to throw it through the catcher's glove, and end up throwing something out over the center of the plate. And Ellsbury hits it in the seats, but he can get angry with composure, if that makes sense.
And Pedroia will feed Drew, covering to force Jeter. Ellsbury into the fielder's choice to end the inning. But Derek Jeter's second hit of the night drives in a run. And here in New York, the Yankees are on the board, still trailing, though, 4-1. By Taco Bell. With John Kruk, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman. Welcome back to the Bronx. The Red Sox lead the Yankees 4-1 as A.J. Pierzynski leads it on. Hit a fly ball to right field his first time up. By his own admission, he is scuffling. He is 4 for 39, although there's some evidence he's hit the ball hard but right at people, but he knows he's struggling. He got off to a very good start this year, as he hits a dribbler down to first, and he'll be retired. And Buster, what do you hear about AJ? I mean, is there actually some talk that the Red Sox might make a change behind the plate?
Point now where the Red Sox, as we saw with what they've done with Mookie Betts, they're looking for a way to upgrade their lineup, for getting more production. Pierzynski was brought in as an offensive catcher, and it really hasn't worked out. He came to the game with a .250 average and 4 home runs. So if he doesn't start hitting very soon, they may well reach down to their farm system to call up top defensive catcher Christian Vasquez, figuring, you know what, we'll get help one way or the other.
And you can see the frustration in the dugout for Pierzynski. We've seen it on the mound from Lackey, and for very different reasons in the dugout there from AJ.
seen some guys break hands like that. Not too smart on his part, but again, when you're angry like that, sometimes you don't even know where you're at or what you're doing. I don't know if you could imagine this, but I've actually broken some things after a feeble at bat.
I mean, at least you like to see that a guy cares. I mean, he's upset.
Yeah.
So he's not just cashing in a paycheck.
Yeah, it was always tough to me to see a guy hitting, 180, 200, and like, I'll get him next time. Well, no, we need you to get him now, or eventually this season. Yeah, he's still looking at his hand. He might have. He ain't gonna say nothing. That'll be an after the game.
Arnie Baylor getting out of the way of that, the first base coach. And Krasinski is still muttering and grumbling and upset. And looking at his hand after he punched the roof of the dugout.
Probably thinking once was enough. The second one could have done the damage.
Drew strikes out, and that'll bring up Mookie Betts, his second major league at bat. Who is Mookie Betts? Well, named not for Mookie Wilson, named for former NBA point guard Mookie Blaylock. Just 5'9", 156, 21 years of age, 345 in the minors this year between AA and AAA. An infielder, they had him start working in the outfield down in the minors just over a month ago because they're getting so little offense out of their outfield. So he gives them some versatility. Natural position is second base. He can really run gap-to-gap line drive hitter, can hit some doubles and triples as family look on.
Tell me there's not any nerves going on. Now, you're going to get your first start in Yankee Stadium. Sunday night, ESPN. And, oh, by the way, you're going to play a position that you haven't hardly played before.
And there's his first big league base hit.
Get that ball, please, sir. Congratulations, Mookie. Have a great career, man.
And that ball will be kept for safekeeping for Mookie Betts.
And then you see someone act like they're throwing the ball up in the stands.
Mom's on the phone already.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. That's the thing you like right there is how his hands go up and back to get started, get generated, hitting off that stiff front leg. And like you said, there's not going to be a lot of power out of his bat. He's not a big guy. But if he can hit some gaps and steal some bases, what else do you need?
He can steal some bases. Mom's all smiles. 29 steals down to the minors this year in 77 games.
Great moment for that family. Your textbook swing. Everything he does is good. That's just, I couldn't imagine. Can you imagine how nervous you'd be watching your son playing?
There he goes. Pitch taken for a strike, and he's thrown out by Brian McCann to end the inning.
Yankees won here on Sunday Night Baseball. Next Sunday, ESPN brings you the MLB All-Star Selection Show. Tune in to see which of Major League Baseball's best and brightest have been selected to the game. MLB All-Star Selection Show next Sunday, 7 Eastern on ESPN. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. It'll be 4, 5, 6 for the Yankees. Mark Teixeira, Brian McCann, and Carlos Beltran here to face John Lackey as we go to the bottom of the fourth. The Red Sox up 4-1, largely on the strength of a long 3-run homer hit back in the third by David Ortiz. Time now to get some face time, brought to you by Edward Jones. This half inning, we are pleased to be joined by Red Sox catcher David Ross. David, how are you?
What's going on, guys?
All right, focus on the field. Talk to us, but watch the game.
You got it. If AJ catches one on the throat or something, I may have to leave you guys.
You got to bail?
I might have to.
Yeah. Well,
when he punched the dugout twice, did you think, oh boy, I might have to get the gear on?
I was a little worried. I hope that hand's all right, but that's a tough individual. Good foul.
Uh-oh is right from a Red Sox point of view. Teixeira hits it out, 4-2.
See the changeup by John Lackey in a really poor located pitch up in the strike zone. You can crowd Mark Teixeira with fastballs in, and if he does hit it, he's going to hit it foul and then go slow away. And that pitch wasn't away.
15th on the season for Teixeira. Ryan McCann the batter now. Let's bring David Ross back in. David, we saw the emotion there from John Lackey. We saw a lot of emotion from John Lackey last inning. A 10-pitch at bat with Ichiro, with Gardner rather, an 11-pitch at bat with Jeter that ended in a base hit. What's it like catching a guy like Lackey?
Well, I hadn't caught him this year much. Him and AJ have got a good thing going this year, and I love Lackey. He's a great competitor. Those guys were throwing good ABs on him, and he's battling those guys and trying to get those guys out, and they're fouling off tough pitches, and it's kind of fun to be have a seat over here in the dugout when some of the best, like John Lackey and Derek Jeter, are going at it with a battle like that. That's a lot of fun. That's what baseball is all about.
Sharply hit, knocked down by Pedroia, and plenty of time to recover and throw out McCann one down.
I like Crucky's game calling skills. He knows exactly where to pitch him. Crucky, you could catch, buddy. Why didn't you miss your calling?
Yeah, well, just happy I was left-handed. This body would have been behind the dish without a chest protector. Yeah. I mean, David, you know what the deal is with Mark Teixeira. You can crowd him in hard, and so he doesn't get his arms extended. And even if he does hit it good, he's going to hit it foul. But
no, you're dead on. You're dead on.
Poorly executed pitch right there by John Lackey.
You're exactly right. I tell guys all the time, I know exactly how to get him out. It's just throw.
And another drive, this one off the bat of Beltran, and it is gone. We saw him struggle with the Lackey fastball in the first at-bat, Crucky. He jumped all over the curveball here.
Yeah, John Lackey's fastball's been pretty explosive this game, getting in on a lot of guys, but you see the grip. What is that? That's a curveball. Looking like a slow curveball by John Lackey. When you're throwing fastballs by guys, that's pretty much timed at 80 miles an hour. That's pretty much timed up pretty good.
So 2 home runs in the inning, and the Yankees are back within a run here in the fourth. We're with David Ross, the Red Sox catchers. This ball is hit a long way down the left field line, but it slices foul. David, as of right now, you guys are halfway through your season. 81 games in, 81 to go. Nobody's running away with the American League East. How much hope is there within your clubhouse that you guys can get back into this?
Well, I think our main concern is just playing clean, consistent baseball. I think we really like our pitching staff. That's what carried us this far. We hadn't been hitting up to our standards, so Guys like John Lester, John Lackey, Clay Buchholz, hopefully we can get him throwing the way he's capable of throwing, and Jake Peavy. And we got some good young arms like Brandon Workman, and Ruby De La Rosa just went down but was giving us some good outings, and our bullpen's solid. So I like, being a catcher, I like our chances. We're in a lot of ball games. We've lost a ton of one-run games, and we just need to get over that hump and start swinging the bats a little better.
In the dirt, 2-2.
David, for people who don't understand the game, they're watching Stephen Drew. Yeah, he's been up for a while now, but when you miss that much time, you tell people how difficult that would be to try to come, and not only to come back, but to play shortstop on an everyday basis. It takes a while to get things going.
You're exactly right. I mean, Dirt he's such a good defensive player, and the way he's really been seamless at short. Made a couple of tough plays, and they've given him an error or two, but he's really solidifies the middle of our diamond. Middle of the diamond with him and Petey, and with our pitching staff, we really need that defense. And moving a guy like Xander over to third has really made us really good defensively. And I know how uncomfortable all of us feel in spring training, and you usually get about 30-40 at bats, and that's about where he's at now. And it's still uncomfortable, and you're running into a league where guys are in the middle of their A game. I mean, guys are locked in. All the cobwebs are off now. Guys are starting to get into their rhythm, and I mean, we're almost at the All-Star break. So, he's got a tough work cut out for him, but he's working his tail off. He's in the cage every day and constantly working.
This is foul back. What do you say to a guy like Mookie Betts on a day like this, David, where he makes his major league debut?
Oh, man, I told him. I gave him a high five. I said, man, you excited? He said, heck yeah. I said, I'm excited to watch you play. He said, what for? I said, man, a guy like me, it's nice to come up and see young studs come up and see what they bring to the game and see what kind of player they are. It's a lot of fun for me to watch a guy like that come up just so green and just, we were talking about hitting. He's like, oh, I hit off the fastball. And it's like, it's so refreshing to hear.
David, what would you do if it was your first game in the big league, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, and they told you were playing a position you've only played a handful of times in the minor leags? Yeah, in Yankee Stadium.
I think I would do what's in my pants, man. I can't imagine what he's.
That's bad luck.
that was Ortiz over here screaming at me. He told me it's bad luck. I'm on the radio and it's bad luck, giving up 3 homers.
Hey, ask David real quick if he was trying to hit one out of Yankee Stadium in BP. That was impressive.
Hey, they want to know if you were trying to hit one out of the stadium. He said that's what he was working on in batting practice.
It looked like it. It really looked like it.
Those balls were crushed. Wow. He's a good player, isn't he?
He's got a chance. Yeah, he's not bad.
He's not bad.
Yeah.
He's not bad at all. He's a lot of fun to come to work with every day and listen to him talk about hitting and play with him.
Ground ball to Pedroia to win the inning. David, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Guys, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, David Ross of the Boston Red Sox. A couple of home runs in the inning. Teixeira and Beltran both go deep, and at the end of 4 in the Bronx, the Red Sox lead is now down to 1. They lead 4-3. Now lead after a couple of Yankee home runs, bottom of the fourth. Between innings, we had a chance to visit with Joe Girardi. Well, Joe, you've been looking for more offense all season. How nice is it to see Teixeira and especially Beltran go down?
It's really nice. You pick up a quick 2 runs there, and we get right back in the game, and now we need a shutdown inning.
You've had the bullpen up twice, 2 different occasions tonight. How do you feel about Whitley's performance so far?
Well, the first couple innings he was able to escape, the big inning with some double play balls. And then he gave up the 3-run homer, and he got through last inning. So we'll have the bullpen ready if he needs him this inning.
Joe, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Even in some of Whitley's better starts, he's often only gone 5 innings. Jackie Bradley Jr. leading off the 5th for the Red Sox, already 79 pitches. Here for Whitley. After Bradley, it'll be back to the top of the order for Brock Holt and Daniel Nava. Only into the 6th inning twice in 8 starts. Right-hander Sean Kelly is up in the Yankee bullpen, throwing as the inning begins. And a 4-pitch walk.
Yeah, Joe's going. I think Joe Girardi might be going to get him.
And you are right. It looks like we'll wait for the signal to make it official.
You don't have a guy warming up to start the inning and then go get him.
So that's all. A quick hook for Whitley. Here comes Kelly as we step aside in the Bronx. More on that in a moment. ESPN's coverage of the FIFA World Cup round of 16 continues tomorrow on ESPN. 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, France and Nigeria. Then 3:30 Eastern Time, Germany and Algeria. This is the knockout round, the round of 16. The 2014 FIFA World Cup presented by Kia. Don't forget that Tuesday, the United States takes on Belgium at 3 Eastern here on ESPN. Out of the pen comes veteran right-hander Sean Kelly.
How long does that last? The World Cup. Is that another couple weeks?
Another couple weeks.
Wow.
We're not even in the quarters yet. This is round of 16. A lot of drama still to come.
Sounds like a Red Sox-Yankees series.
There's Kelly into the game for the Yankees. Whitley is out. After 4 innings plus a batter, Whitley watches from the dugout. Bradley's at first. The batter's Brock Holt. He takes very high ball 1. Holt has grounded out and walked and scored. So Whitley did better tonight than he did in his last start against Toronto, but still did not get deep into the game. Good thing for the Yankees that Tanaka, although he lost, pitched very well last night and threw a complete game to rest the bullpen up, because Whitley generally has not gone deep in his starts. And you'd have to think at some point, whether it's by somebody getting healthy or somebody getting acquired in a deal, that the Yankees rotation is going to change. Let's hear more from Buster Olney.
And guys, there is so much uncertainty about what CC Sabathia might bring if he comes back, and the same with Michael Pineda. So in talking with rival executives, they say the Yankees are being very aggressive and looking for a starting pitcher considering the range of the market, whether it be a Jeff Samardzija of the Cubs or Jason Hamill of the Cubs, John Danks, and other names. Executives with other teams have told me they think it's a sure thing that before July 31st, the Yankees are going to add a starting pitcher.
CC Sabathia on the DL, Michael Pineda on the DL, Ivan Nova on the DL, and out for the season. Sabathia threw in the minors yesterday. Began his rehab assignment in Single-A Tampa yesterday. Gave up 2 runs in 2 1/3. So he's a ways away. He's trying to come back from a knee injury. And a 4-pitch walk to the first batter that Kelly faces as Holt is aboard. So Sabathia would need, obviously, even if everything goes well, Crucky, I mean, you're talking about after the All-Star break for sure, you would think.
Yeah.
You know, a big man with a lot of miles on him, a lot of innings, and a knee injury. And Pineda, who's got an injury kind of underneath his shoulder or towards the back of his shoulder, there's no timetable. He's throwing off flat ground, hasn't even gotten on the mound yet.
Yeah, and he's throwing 60 feet, which, you know, you'd like to see.
Hasn't stretched it out.
Yeah, he has to get at least some long toss in.
Here's Nava, base hit and a fly ball. First and second, nobody out. He's thinking there's a bunt possibility.
You are right. Wow. Maybe they're going to make him throw a strike. I'm surprised he's not butting here with Pedroia and Ortiz coming up.
9 straight balls thrown this inning, 4 by Whitley, and then the last 5 by Kelly. Make it 10. And they're getting a little restless here in the Bronx. And Larry Rothschild is going to head to the mound, and the bullpen is busy again. Is that David Huff up for the second time? It is.
Yep.
So Joe Girardi, sensing he had to get Whitley out of there quickly, that they had dodged a couple of bullets early, and not liking what he sees so far from Kelly.
What I used to go out there to some of those meetings just because some of them were entertaining. But when a guy can't throw a ball close to home, what do you tell him? Hey, you see that glove that he's holding? Throw it to that. Johnny Padres was the best.
What do you say? Just relax, bear down. You got this.
Yeah. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's go. You know. Let your defense work. You try to give him all the positive stuff. Johnny Padres was the best. He would just tell you ain't got nothing. Hey, it was great. He said, I'm just out here so Jimmy, which was Jimmy Fregosi, can get someone warmed up because you're coming out soon. He was beautiful.
And a strike.
There we go.
Well, realistically, with Ortiz a couple of batters away, that could be David Huff time no matter what Kelly does between now and then. Well, whatever Larry Rothschild said, so far so good.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Would you like it if the hitting coach could call time and walk to the plate when you were batting?
I'd kill him. I would kill him. You know, I had my own hitting coach at third base when I played with Larry Boa, and if I took a bad swing, the looks he would give me, the drop of the head, the turn around and walk away from home plate type of deal. He'd walk halfway down the left field line, shaking his head. There was at bats where if we were winning by a lot or losing, I would purposely take a bad swing at a bad pitch just so I could watch him.
That's nice of you.
Yeah. He was entertaining.
How's he handling? How do you think he's handling the Phillies situation? The scuffling that they're going through right now.
I'm going to pull a no comment on that one, Dan. Thanks for asking that one. You don't win Emmys for nothing, bud.
And it's ball 4 to load the bases with nobody out. 3 straight walks to begin the inning. Ortiz on deck, Pedroia at the plate. 2 for 2 tonight. 5 hits in the last 2 games. Ball 1.
He did tell me before the game. I said, look, don't try to pull the wool over my eyes. How's your hand doing? And he said, honest to goodness, he said, the last 2 weeks I felt great. Now that tells you that from opening day until 2 weeks ago,
right,
he wasn't feeling 100%.
And second year in a row he's dealt with an injury to hand or wrist.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing for a hitter, to have any injury of your wrist or hand. It's what you make your living with.
Little flare, gonna drop in for a base hit. And 2 runs are going to score. Nava around to third. And the Red Sox open it up to a 6-3 lead. The 2 they gave up, they get right back. And here comes Joe Girardi again to make another pitching change and bring the lefty in to face Ortiz. Didn't hit it hard, but he found a hole. And the Red Sox are back up by 3 with Ortiz coming in as Kelly gets booed off the mound here in New York. Jam shot, finds some grass and drives in a pair. A little bit more damage tonight as he gets ready to come to the plate against the left-hander David Huff. And here's what he's done, Crucky, so far tonight.
Well, you see the kind of a little bit of a pull-off by David Ortiz. He grounds into that double play to end the first inning. And then when you got the pull swing working, the last thing you want to do is throw him middle in. And that's what Chase Whitley did, and David Ortiz launched one into the night.
One thing you'll notice if you watch Ortiz is he's pulling the ball much more this year, it seems, than he has in years past.
And you know, a lot of that could be, Dan, the fact that they're not scoring runs, so he's trying to get one quick run every time up, and he's pulling off trying to hit home runs more. You know, remember last year when they were scoring an abundance of runs, he had, you know, he was hitting the ball the other way, you know, really well. Pretty much at will whenever he decided he wanted to do it. He'd hit a ball off that monster or a ball in the gap in left center. Just seems like this year he's trying to carry this team on his shoulders. Of course, a game like this one tonight with the 6 runs already, getting a lot of help. You see his hits by direction this season. Pretty big number there to right field. It tells you that he's not concerned with spraying it around.
Popped him up. Jeter back into the outfield grass, called off by Gardner, who makes the catch for the second out. That is a big out for David Huff and the Yankees. For the first out, excuse me, for the first out of the inning. That'll bring up Mike Napoli. 3 straight walks to begin the inning, then a 2-run bloop single to right by Pedroia. Ortiz flies out, and now Napoli comes up, and he's 2 for 2. Doubled and scored in the second, and singled in the third. Remember, he homered in the 9th inning last night. Red Sox winning that game 2-1.
That's the good and the bad about the game of baseball. The 3-run homer, David Ortiz, happiest guy in the ballpark. That at bat with first and third, no outs. Short fly ball to left field, and he can't drive in the run, and that's his bread and butter, run production. Felt like he left something out there. You see, still a little upset with that one.
We've seen him muttering tonight. A.J. Przinsky upset. John Lackey upset.
And they're winning 6-3.
Yeah.
Can you say perfectionist?
A lot of frustration over the first half of the season for the Red Sox. 37-44. Under 500 after 81 games for the first time since 1997. Johnny Gomes is muttering he's not even playing.
Yeah, well, he might be chewing seeds. Just look like muttering.
Huff wants a new baseball. The count now 3-1 on Napoli.
That's the one thing about playing years ago. The sunflower seeds were 2 flavors, salted and unsalted. Now they have bacon, ranch, dill, barbecue. Oh.
Big swing and a miss, full count. Nava at third, Pedroia at first, 1 out. Big hole on the right side. Teixeira holding on Pedroia, who is running. And Napoli fouls it off.
Interesting swing right there by Mike Napoli with the run, and he knew, you name any sort of 10 vehicles you want, and they could get through that hole between first and second. Look at the swing by Napoli. I think he's trying to hit a home run. He's trying to shoot something in that hole and get a first to third with Pedroia and drive Daniel Nava in. Now this could be a different swing because Pedroia is probably going again, and they picked him off.
Yeah. Now keep an eye on Nava at third. Got Pedroia in a rundown. Here comes Nava. They get Pedroia, but Nava will score. So another run for the Red Sox to now lead 7-3. It is not a steal of home. It is scored as a fielder's choice as they got Pedroia in the rundown. 7-3 Boston.
Well, that play right there just keeps my scorebook from being finished. And in Pedroia, look, that wasn't a planned play. You got one of your top run producers up in Mike Napoli with a 3-2 count. And Pedroia he got caught, but it ended up paying off for him with a run scored.
Pedroia charged with a caught stealing, and Nava scores on a fielder's choice. Brzezinski lines one down towards the right field corner, a foul ball. And when you're going poorly, that ball's foul.
We see the play here. You see Pedroia just taking off, but right there when he stops, that's when Mark Teixeira has to continue running him. When you start making long throws like this, it gives Nava a lot of time to read and react to the ball being in the air. And that's a play where Mark Teixeira has to run him hard to second base. Oh, boy. He ain't going to punch nothing now.
Yeah. Flares one to left, a base hit. Napoli up to second.
But that rundown play is a play where Mark Teixeira has to run hard, make sure Pedroia is moving toward the second baseman.
And Pierzynski thanking the stars that he came up with a base hit.
Well, he said he's going to have a hot July. He didn't say where he was going to have it, but he said it was going to be a hot July. 450 he predicted.
Stephen Drew. 1 for 2 tonight, an RBI single his first time up. It snapped a 1 for 34 drought. Well, you talked about the bottom of the order has to contribute. With Holt leading off, Nava's been hot. He hit second. Pedroia, Ortiz, Napoli. 1 through 5, they feel pretty good about things. 6 through 9.
They don't feel good about it all.
Right. And right now that's Pierzynski, Drew tonight, Mookie Betts, then Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yep. And Drew with an RBI single. Mookie Betts with the RBI. Of course, he got caught stealing. And he also hit into a double play. But, I mean, that doesn't leave you with many options.
Bogart's out of the lineup tonight. Fits in the mix sometimes.
Yeah. And if Mookie Betts they think he can swing the bat well enough. Do we dare see Brock Holt in center field? Mookie Betts in right?
And Bradley fighting for playing.
Yes. Yeah. Or do they do what they did with him last year and send him back to AAA to get seasoning or to get at bats? Try to figure it out. And that's the thing I think you'll notice with John Farrell. You remember last year in the World Series when he had a 20-year-old, 19, 20-year-old Xander Bogart. He had no problems hitting him down low in the lineup because he was swinging it good. I think if you're swinging it good, you're going to get a chance. Look what Brock Holt's done for him.
Well, the funny thing, and it may be a complete coincidence, when they moved him from short to third is right about the time he started struggling at the plate. But could Bogarts, or could Holt rather, get some time at short? If Drew doesn't start hitting, because they can play Holt anywhere, could they play Holt at short?
That's the thing. If AJ can start hitting like he's capable, like his baseball card says, if Bogarts can start hitting, you can afford to have the defensive shortstop in Stephen Drew, who's struggling offensively, and let him bide his time until he can figure it out. But when you have 4 guys at the bottom of your lineup and none of them are hitting, sometimes you have to forego defense and try to score runs. I'm not saying Jackie Bradley should be sent down or what, but they've dug themselves a hole. They understand that, and scoring less than 3 runs in a month, averaging less than 3 runs in a month, something has to be done.
Well, they tried Grady Sizemore, released him. Shane Victorino is still on the DL, had a setback with a hamstring injury, no timetable for his return.
I think the setback was with his lower back, so who knows when he'll be back.
I mean, these are numbers you just never, ever expect to see from the Boston Red Sox.
No. Too much talent, you have too many guys on there that have won world championships to have that big of struggles.
So they're relying on the starting pitching.
Yeah, they need Buck Holtz to get back to what everyone projects him to be, which is a top of the rotation type of guy.
Lester and Lackey, they got two guys they can count on.
That game yesterday, Lester, wow.
This one's going to get out of play. We have seen a lot of two-strike foul balls in this game. A lot of long at-bats.
Well, this game kind of reminds you of the 2013 Red Sox. Take pitches, work deep counts, take your walks, let the next guy drive you in.
3 Yankee pitchers have combined to throw 38 pitches already this inning.
Is that all?
Another foul ball. Whitley started the inning, and that was this inning when he walked Jackie Bradley Jr. Then he came out of the game. Sean Kelly came in and walked his first batter on 4 straight pitches. Nava walked. Pedroia flared one into right for a 2-run single. Napoli's walked this inning as well. And Drew continues to foul off pitch after pitch.
Hey, you know it's not a good sign for Yankee pitching when the guy coming in the game hitting 125 is making you work. Normally that's a 3 or 4 pitch AB at most. But maybe that pitch up and in by Whitley got Stephen Drew's attention.
Inside, and the count is full. Napoli, Pierzynski will both be on the move.
Well, Napoli will. I'm not sure. AJ might. No, I'm kidding. He knows I'm kidding.
To center field. Ellsbury drifting back, makes the catch, and the inning is finally over. 3 more runs for the Red Sox and a 7-3 lead over the Yankees here in New York. To Yankee Stadium, the Red Sox lead the Yankees 7-3 as we go to the bottom of the 5th. And Ichiro will take a strike from John Lackey. Ichiro tonight reached on an error, stole a base, and scored back in the third. In the hole 0-2. This is Ichiro's 115th at bat against John Lackey. Talk about two guys who have been around for a while. He is 33 for 114 in his career against Lackey. About a 290 average. So they've both had their fair share of success, and Ichiro will line one all the way to the fence in right center. On his way to third, and he will be held there. Mookie Betts playing shallow, playing an unfamiliar position, gambled, went for it, missed it, triple for Ichiro.
And if you're John Farrell and the Boston Red Sox, these are the things you're going to have to live with. He took a direct route to the ball. He didn't take a roundabout route to try to cut that ball off. And as you can see, not really close to that one. And that's a play that you can take all the fungos you want. You can take all the live BP you want. You don't dive for balls during fungos and batting practice and try to make spectacular plays. And that's a play right there that Mookie Betts will eventually say, okay, I can play a little deeper, cut that ball off, keep Ichiro at either first or second.
Now Gardner rips one off the wall on a bounce. And he slides in head first safely with an RBI double. Turning into one of those nights here between these two teams.
John Lackey got that fastball down and into Brett Gardner. I mean, this is a play right here. I mean, great strong throw to second base right on the money. Just the speed of Brett Gardner. I mean, any other runner in this Yankee lineup probably would have been thrown out on this play, but
pretty good throw.
He did. That was like a quarterback throwing that ball, short, quick.
Here's Jeter, 2 for 2. 2 base hits to right, one of them driving in a run.
This is where he excels in the number 2 hole with the runner on third base or second base, no outs. Yeah, 7-4 game. He gets him over. Now it's a 7-5 game. You still have 4 innings left to work after this one. If you can get this game to be, at a 2-run game.
Activity in the Red Sox pen. John Lackey just looked out in that direction. He sees it. This is, of course, the inning he has to finish in order to qualify for a win. Burke Badenhop is up in the pen for Boston. Protecting and fouling it off.
Protecting 0-2, but still trying to hit it the other way.
At worst, advance the runner. You find a hole, you get a base hit.
Yep, it's either going to be runner to third or first and third, or him on first base after driving in a run.
And he did it. Great diving stop by Pedroia to get the out, but Jeter stuck with his game plan. Hit the ball to the right side. Only a great play by Pedroia denies him a base hit. Gardner takes third.
Kind of wonder sometimes if something's slowing away. Derek Jeter try to get him out in front, maybe roll one over. There it is, another fastball in, and
that's a great play.
It's just, well, it is, but you anticipate him making that play because he does that all the time.
Shocking to see him dirty.
It really is. And unshaven. I asked him about the hair, too. He's letting the hair grow this year. So that has nothing to do with his unusually poor statistics right now.
Here's Ellsbury. 0 for 2. Seven-4. Red Sox, bottom of the 5th. Yankees looking to get a little bit closer. Ball 2. Little number back towards the mound. Only play is to first. Ellsbury retired, but he brings home a run to make it 7-5.
No substitute for speed. A slower man would have had to stay at third base on that ball right there. But Brett Gardner got a great jump. And then with the speed of Ellsbury also, you got to make a really quick decision if you're A.J. Pierzynski on where to throw. This ball is hit in front of home. You see A.J.'s yelling and pointing to first base. He took one look at Gardner steaming in toward home and said, we ain't got a chance, but you better hurry because Ellsbury can fly too. What a great base runner by Brett Gardner.
Well, this is something, even though they're an older team. I mean, Gardner and Ellsbury are right in their prime. They both got great speed. And even as older players, Jeter and Ichiro and Roberts can all run a little bit. This team's got some speed.
Yeah, they do. But you know, they're not that yet. They're not that big power hitting team that they used to be. Might have had a purpose. John Lackey might be trying to tell the Yankees 5's all you get.
Teixeira homered his last time up. Out in front of the curveball, 2-2. Fly ball to deep right field, but not quite deep enough. Betts is there. Inning is over. Yankees get a pair and have closed within 2. 5 tough innings for Lackey, but he's still got a 7-5 lead. Great play by Pedroia. Barry Larkin's Web Jam's best plays of the day on the other side of this break. a few days ago. Shane at the in the early stages of what figures to be a promising NBA career. Got a chance to see Shane play a lot of college basketball down at the University of Miami. Dustin Pedroia, meanwhile, not only getting it done with a glove, getting it done with the bat as well. He's got a hit in 6 consecutive at-bats. 3 for 3 tonight, and hits in his last 3 at-bats last night. 7-5. Sox lead the Yankees, top 6. And Mookie Betts in his first major league game comes up. He's 1 for 2.
Did Mookie Blaylock go to Oklahoma?
University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Terrific guard.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
Atlanta Hawks. Correct?
Say again?
Played for the Atlanta Hawks?
Yes, he did, among other teams. Played alongside the great Wayman Tisdale with Oklahoma.
Passed way too young, Wayman did.
Definitely. And that is a foul ball.
Wow.
The eye test tell you fair? Nobody's arguing.
No one's. Well, he's a rookie. He can't say anything.
2-1 the count on Betts.
He really can't. Inconclusive.
Strike of the knees, 2-2. And a piece of the changeup. Family got a big charge out of the base hit that he had his last time up.
He's a veteran now. He's got one. Right, have your first when you're a veteran.
Dad's working the cell phone now. Mom was when he had the base hit last time.
Dad might be giving play-by-play. Apparently he doesn't trust us. Right, the count's 2-2. He just fouled off a tough pitch. Here comes the 2-2 pitch.
Good takes of that.
Good takes, son.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch. I don't think I could watch.
That seems pretty common.
Yeah.
Last at bat, his first big league base hit.
Congratulations, Mookie. Have a great career, man.
As Mark Teixeira saying, have a great career. I'll get a chance to talk again as bench draws the walk.
Well, right now, if he retired, he would probably have the highest lifetime batting average.
He's got some speed. Brian McCann threw him out his last time up, and will draw a throw from Huff. All of a sudden, with some of the new younger faces in with the Red Sox, Betts, Bradley this year, Brock Holt, the Red Sox have a different feel to them. Younger, more athletic, more speed, a different kind of an offense, not just the grind out at bats, take walks, hit home runs offense that had been very successful for them in recent years.
Yeah, probably want to get away from that. Scoring a lot of runs wasn't a lot of fun, apparently.
Well, right now.
But they're doing what they can with what they have.
Right, they're doing what they have to do right now. And of course, they lost a lot of speed with the departure of Jacoby Ellsbury. Lost a lot of things with the departure of Jacoby Ellsbury.
Back. Now, be smart. Be smart.
You know, we sometimes, when we don't know a young player who played in the minor league, we get scattering reports from players. And Shane Victorino just sent me a text. He said, watch Mookie's leads. He said he gets huge leads, and that is an enormous lead. I mean, that's like back in the old days in the turf. That's 2 feet on the turf.
And Bradley scoots one through the left side for a base hit. Betts up to second. Let's get Victorino in here for a little analysis.
He's busy.
Let's patch him in.
Rehabbing.
Activity in the Yankee pen. A guy who has been as dominant a reliever as there has been in baseball this year. Dellin Betances. Larry Rothschild to buy some time. Now Betances usually works later in a game and usually works with the Yankees leading the game. But I think the way that Joe Girardi has managed this game tonight, we've seen from how quickly he got Whitley out of there. Kelly wasn't throwing strikes. Yeah, you got 162, but Girardi, he's really pushing some buttons tonight to try to win this game.
Well, he's trying to keep it a 2-run game and give his offense a chance. And you know, if bringing Dellin Betances into this game in the 6th inning means keeping it close, then that's what he has to do. Because you have to remember, they didn't pitch yesterday. They didn't have one relief pitcher pitching. They pitched in the game yesterday, so you know they're all rested and ready to go. And multiple innings by Betances is nothing new for him.
This is an "Is he ready?" phone call. Down and away, ball 1 to Brock Holt. So a base hit, a walk, 2 on, nobody out. Holt, who's become the leadoff hitter for the Red Sox over the last month or so. 2 walks and a ground out tonight.
Yeah, the Red Sox aren't big on the bunting thing, are they? Chance right here to get the guys over for Nava, who seems to be swinging it. Pedroia's got 3 hits. David Ortiz is David Ortiz. So many things they can do here, Dan. They can put the runners in motion, hoping that Brock Holt can put the ball in play. And that depends on David Huff throwing a strike, too.
3 balls and a strike.
I think this is where you trust Brock Holt. I think you run him. Put the defenders in motion. Trust that Brock Holt's not going to swing at a bad pitch and swing through a ball.
A broken bat base hit. And with speed, Betts gets to third. He was really caught in a difficult spot there, not knowing if that ball would get over Jeter. He still had the speed to get there. It's a base hit to load the bases with nobody out. And here comes Joe Girardi to make the change. So here comes Betances, inheriting a bases loaded, nobody out situation with the Red Sox already up by 2. Bases loaded, nobody out. Top of the 6th inning here in the Bronx. Next Sunday, 1 week from tonight, ESPN brings you the Taco Bell MLB All-Star Selection Show. Tune in to see which of Major League Baseball's best and brightest have been selected to this year's All-Star Game. 1 week from tonight, 7 Eastern on ESPN. And a guy who should be on the All-Star team? That guy right there, Dellin Betances, 4-0, a 1.39 ERA, 74 strikeouts in 45 1/3 innings out of the Yankee bullpen. Got to be in Minneapolis.
Got to be in Minneapolis, and he's got to have some strikeouts here.
Bases loaded, nobody out. Nava, Pedroia, Ortiz. Nava tonight's 1 for 2 with Milwaukee, has scored a run. Pedroia is 3 for 3. Ortiz has homered. Two. 6'8", big fastball,
and
very
that.
good breaking ball.
And that.
And that, yeah.
Stay in school.
I knew that was
to be
coming.
a weekly message. Well, this is where Brian McCann has to be really careful if he throws that breaking ball again, because 0-2, you want to see if you can bounce one, make sure to see if Nava will swing through it, swing over top of it. McCann has to keep that ball in front of him, though.
Got it. 1 down.
There's that slider. Perfect location. Nava hits it. He probably hits a grounder. If he doesn't hit it foul, he probably hits a grounder to Sherrod first, who's playing in.
And you could see the sharpness of that breaking ball, the way that Pedroia buckled on that pitch. He's not a buckler.
He's not a buckler,
Right.
but some people make you do strange things, Dan. But he's liable to throw that same pitch again, thinking, okay, he can't pick it up. And he's liable to shoot one in the right field for a base hit.
He's hot right now. 3 for 3 tonight. Hits in each of his last 6 at bats. Fly ball to right center. Betts will go back to tag. Ellsbury will make the catch. Betts will score. Bradley will take third. Nava, or rather Holt, sticks at first. It's a sac fly and an 8-5 lead for the Red Sox.
Well, that's a veteran right there. He's swinging the bat well, knowing that Betances, if he throws that slider, is going to hopefully get a pull-off grounder to shortstop or third base, try to turn the double play. And in that situation, Pedroia was just thinking, hit it the other way, then stay on it. Puts the Red Sox up 3.
Rocky, this could be fun.
Yeah.
Betances and Ortiz.
Yeah, well, David's going to see that slider, I think. I think he proved he can hit a fastball.
You can see one on the first pitch.
Well, but this is a different fastball than what he's seen tonight, so Betances might show him one. And
0 for 2, 2 strikeouts career Ortiz against Betances.
Saying that slider is probably the pitch. That's a tough one for a lefty to lay off of, that one down at your back foot. For 98 there too is probably a difficult one to get a good piece of the bat on too.
Joe Girardi wanting to keep it close, so he goes to Betances, trailing in the 6th inning. Came in with the bases loaded, nobody out, a strikeout, a sac fly. Now trying to keep it close by getting Ortiz. Back out of play, 1-1. Ortiz is geared up for the heat.
I'd love to see one day a guy like Giancarlo Stanton facing Aroldis Chapman, and he
And he gets it all.
Like 102-mile-an-hour pitch, and he hits it perfect. Just to see how far that would go.
Slider for a strike.
Yeah, you see the pitch before 98, the fastball's 98. David Ortiz got it generated early. Watch how quickly he tries to get this. A leg kick, the open up. Pitch might have been inside a little bit, but David Ortiz really would have been so far out in front of that pitch. He was starting so early to get to it.
And he hits one into the shift to end the inning. Betances minimizes the damage. One of the inherited runs scores 8-5. Inning, the Red Sox 8 and the Yankees 5. Burke Badenhop is the new pitcher for Boston. 36th appearance of the season and a very tidy 1.77 ERA. As he comes on after John Lackey went 5 innings, gave up 5 runs, gave up a couple of homers, but still could wind up with a win tonight.
The roving home plate today.
Yankee pitchers have walked 6. As McCann drives one to deep left center field. Nava giving chase, and he makes the catch.
Well, Daniel Nava just did a great job. Great angle he took to that ball. You saw him look down, see where everything was. Caught that ball pretty easily. Didn't even get to the track.
Well, and if this is going to be their outfield, and again, everything is subject to change, Nava, Bradley, Betts, they're going to run some balls down.
Yeah. And, you know, and Bradley, look, he's a way above average center fielder. But, you know, you put Brock Holt out there, you have Mookie Betts in right field. I mean, how much do you lose?
2-0 the count on Beltran, who was 1 for 2, including a home run his last time up.
And the thing is with offensive numbers, Dan, when a guy's struggling, if the team was scoring a bunch of runs, you live with it. You live with his defense and the fact that he's, you know, can go get him with the best of them. Problem is, when you're not scoring runs, and although they've dropped an 8 spot on the Yankees here, sometimes you have to shuffle.
Taking all the way, 3-1. And a check swing base hit down the left field line, and Beltran's going to get himself a double. So here's McCann, hits a ball like a rocket 380 feet. It's an out, and this is a double for Beltran.
Beautiful game, isn't it?
Well, it's a huge day in sports. Tuesday on ESPN, beginning at 8 Eastern Time, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer headline Wimbledon coverage, and then at 11:30 Eastern Time, Argentina and Switzerland, and at 3, Belgium and the United States for the quarterfinal spot on the line. Don't miss a moment Tuesday. Catch all the action live on Watch ESPN throughout the day. Download the app or visit watchespn.com. The batter, Kelly Johnson. Up the middle, a base hit. Beltran around third. Bradley's throw coming through on a bounce, and out at the plate is Beltran. What a throw by Bradley. To second on the play goes Johnson, but it's still 8-5.
Well, this is what Jackie Bradley Jr. brings to the table. He can go get him with the best of them. Pretty strong, accurate throwing arm, and that's a ball right there where Beltran had to freeze because he didn't know Badenhop was going to catch it. And once he froze, with the way Bradley charged the ball, and of course, you know, Beltran's not the runner he used to be. Great throw, great tag. Gave him the play, did the whole thing right, no replays. All good, but Jackie Bradley Jr. with an unbelievable throw.
His 9th outfield assist at the midway point of the season. That leads all major league center fielders. Now here's a swing and a ground ball down to first. Napoli up with it. Roberts is retired to end the inning. Great throw by Bradley, and that means at the end of the 6th, the score is still the Red Sox 8 and the Yankees 5. Taco Bell is brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3 with seamless connectivity. Great throw by Jackie Bradley Jr. to gun down Carlos Beltran at the plate. So it is still 8-5 Red Sox as we go to the top of the 7th here at Yankee Stadium. And the Betances will face Mike Napoli, who is now well aware of his presence after that pitch buzzes the tower. Napoli has doubled, singled, and walked.
Pretty good giddy up right there, little 97.
You can tell how hard a guy's throwing when the pop-ups take forever to come down. That one lands in the seats.
Napoli can hit some majestic balls too. He hits some of them. The ones he pulls are nice and high.
Chance is slipping a little bit on his follow through on that slider. The worse for wear. 3 balls and a strike.
Slipped on the slider.
Slipped on the slider. Pretty good. Huh?
You're very good. Practice that stuff like in your room?
No.
You know,
activity in the Red Sox pen. Left-hander Andrew Miller. How's the steak?
What steak? I don't know what you're talking about. It's delicious.
That bone is the size of a bat.
Yeah. Tony Gwynn could probably hit 320 with that ball.
Yeah. Nice play down the line, youngster. Bringing that glove came in handy.
I'm not sure why they put this green stuff on here, but
don't worry about it. It's not food.
Not
swing and food? A miss to get him. It's not on your menu. That's about a quarter of what showed up here.
Yeah. The other quarter fell, or 3/4 fell. Spilled it. Look at that thing.
I can't understand how you're not the same playing weight that you were when you came out of.
I can't really twist it too much because it's nice and juicy. A lot of marble.
And that's from the place you were talking about.
New York
right?
steaks. Yeah, it's delicious. I think they're even open when the Yankees are on the road, I believe. You can go there and have dinner.
So you're claiming the other three, you didn't eat the other 3/4. It fell. That's
fell.
What you're saying?
I had one bite and then I dropped the rest because, see, that's the only thing I ate right there. I haven't been feeling well. Look at that.
This isn't even during a break. This is during the game.
Yeah, one of them 3-0 counts, I get bored. Look at AJ's hot now. Nope.
Lines it to Gardner, 2 down. You had a few of those in your day.
Oh. Every day I get to the ballpark, everyone wait for me from one of the cheesesteak places right around
at the
vet
ballpark. When you go to the vet.
Well, the vet, yeah.
Gee, it's baffling to me why you didn't maintain your playing weight over the course
It's shocking, isn't it? I mean, it's one of life's great mysteries.
Here's Stephen Drew, 1 for 3.
You don't realize that's not going to carry.
Inning is over, and you know what that means. More time to chow down if you're Crucky. are underway here in the Bronx.
Number 2,
A high, towering drive.
That was patient.
That was power. Great diving stop by Pedroia to get the out. Bottom of the 7th, the Red Sox and Yankees. The Red Sox leading 8-5. Middle of the order has done a lot of damage for Boston. Beltran and Teixeira have homered for the Yankees. Lackey could still get the win. He went 5. Whitley went 4 innings plus a batter, on the hook for the loss unless things change. On to the bottom of the 7th for Boston. Left-hander Andrew Miller to face Ichiro, Gardner, and Jeter. And you can see 50 strikeouts, 9 walks. Big, tall guy, kind of funky mechanics, very good stuff. If he's in the zone, he's a handful.
Yeah, that's been the problem throughout his career. He gets behind a lot of hitters, and you can sit on one pitch, but once he gets ahead, he can go to that slider, lefty on lefty. It's not a fun proposition for the old batter.
Ichiro tonight has reached on an error and tripled. And a drive to right center past a diving Mookie Betts. And for Ichiro, his first triple of the season. He has scored a couple of runs tonight.
I got on him a little quick. Here comes Mr. Slider, you would imagine.
And you would imagine correctly. The outfield, you see this a lot with Ichiro, more than just about any other hitter. They play him to hit the ball the other way, and they play him very shallow.
A lot of unhappy people here tonight. Andrew Miller just got upset. We saw Lackey, AJ.
Ortiz.
That's the one.
Let's go down to Buster Olney.
Guys, this weekend the Boston Red Sox re-engaged in contract negotiations with John Lester, their ace left-hander, who is eligible for free agency after the season, but it's unclear whether or not they've actually made substantive progress. You guys remember in spring training they had a 4-year $70 million offer on the table. That didn't go anywhere, and since then the market's been reset by that 6-year $105 million deal that went to Homer Bailey. So we'll find out soon if the Red Sox can make some progress. These negotiations have reminded me of what happened with Cole Hamels and the Phillies a couple of years ago. The Phillies waited and waited and waited, and it wasn't until the end of July that they absolutely capitulated and gave him $144 million. We don't know if the Red Sox will make the same decision.
That's going to be a big one, Buster, right? And there are a number of very good free agents, or starting pitchers, rather, who are free agents at the end of this season, right?
That's exactly right, because you have Max Scherzer out there. Those will be number 1 and number 2. And remember, David Price and Jeff Samardzija are also in the trade market. And this is a big deal for the Red Sox because John Lester has demonstrated he is the leader of this staff. He's helped them win 2 World Series, and this is being very closely watched in their clubhouse.
Two on to Gardner. Misses down and in. 3 balls and a strike. I believe James Shields is a free agent at the end of the year as well. Another big time pitcher. So there's going to be some quality on the free agent market at the end of the season. And obviously the Red Sox would love to retain John Lester. But can they give him enough to make him forego free agency?
Buster lost me when he said that big word.
Which one?
Well, I'm probably going to say it wrong. As Brett Gardner, what? Capitulate?
Capitulate. Give in.
What?
Capitulate. Give in.
Why didn't he just say give in? I can't remember who we're talking to.
Smart guy.
I know that. He went to Vanderbilt and all that. But...
Hey, by the way, Buster, congratulations.
Yeah.
You must have enjoyed the College World Series.
I did, but I must admit I got so many congratulations about that, but I feel like the cousin at the wedding, because I had nothing to do with it. I went there many years ago, and they obviously accomplished all of it, but it has been a whole lot of fun.
But anybody who reads your column every day knows how big of a Vanderbilt fan you were.
Well, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
It looked like it. Derek Jeter takes a strike. Jeter is 2 for 3 tonight, has driven in a run.
They didn't capitulate.
They didn't capitulate. That's good.
Huh. Scrabble. Scrabble. I'm ready for Scrabble. All right, Jeter's up. Let's pay attention, Dan. 2 hits, got robbed by Pedroia.
In the hole 0-2.
What do you think his strike zone is going to be the last game here at Yankee Stadium? What? You have to throw it in a thimble?
A wee strike zone. It'll be the last Thursday of the regular season, the last home game for Derek Jeter. It'll be against Baltimore. The Yankees finish up the last weekend of the regular season in Boston. That'll be a tough ticket here that last Thursday night.
I'd say impossible. Although I'm sure someone will call us. Hey, can you get me 10 for the Yankees last game? I want to see Jeter.
Sellout tonight, 48,124, 7th sellout of the season.
How do you think they're going to take him out of the game? Like they did with Mariano. Remember Pettit?
Well, but it depends if they're still in a race or not. I mean, if they're in a race and in a game, you can't take them out during the game. If they're out of a race or the game's out of hand, you can take them out, get them that one extra ovation. But I think the circumstances will dictate.
Well, let's assume it's a 15-0 game either way. What's the best way to do it?
Either he gets on base and you pinch run for him, or you send him out defensively for an inning and then you bring him out.
But who takes him out? Who replaces him?
Who takes his place at short?
Yeah,
Ryan,
they took Mariano out with. Uh-oh, he swung.
Yes, he did. Two down.
Well, this is 20 years of Derek Jeter. We're all wrapped up into 2 at bats. You see the hands is barely going up and back, but stays inside the ball so well. Able to shoot that ball to right field, and again, the same thing. I mean, it's the exact same swing. The perfect head placement, the perfect 90-degree on the back leg, and 2 swings that looked exactly alike ended up with the same result.
Ball 1 inside to Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury tonight is 0 for 3 to drive in a run on a ground ball his last time up. Yankees are down 8-5, bottom 7. And Miller in with a strike to even it up at 1-1. Good opportunity to bring Miller into the game. He faces 3 left-handed batters among the first 4 that he faces. One and 2.
Ellsbury think he struck out there? I mean, he looked like he was walking back to the dugout, wasn't he?
Krasinski, meanwhile, stood up, turned around, was talking to Mark Wegner, the home plate umpire. Boy, that's a pretty good job just to get the bat on the ball right there.
Yeah, that's there's really nothing you can do with it. That's all you can hope for. That's like the best result on that pitch with 2 strikes.
Miller checking on Gardner, who's got 15 stolen bases on the season. He's been caught 3 times.
It seemed like the lefties are seeing it well off of him. Done it.
Coming into the game tonight, lefties were 7 for 45 against Miller, a 156 batting average.
That's pretty good.
And you can tack on a strikeout of Ichiro and now a strikeout of Ellsbury, and Miller does his job. Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas.
And we're doing it tonight.
In part by Chevrolet. Find new roads. You're on a roll tonight, my friend. Left-hander Matt Thornton is into the game. 5th pitcher of the night for the Yankees, who were down 8-5 going to the 8th.
When you get to spend 5 hours with you, sometimes you have to entertain. That's just during the game.
That's true.
Not been a snappy one, has it?
There's Mookie Betts.
Where else would we rather be, Dan?
And you're on your way up to Bristol after the game tonight. Get a little baseball tonight tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. And wraps. Those are fun.
Betts in his major league debut has grounded into a double play. Picked up his first major league hit, then was thrown out trying to steal, and then walked and scored. Playing right field. Yankee pitchers have had trouble, especially relievers have had trouble throwing strikes tonight.
They keep this up, I might not make the show tomorrow night.
In there with a strike, full count. Sports Center airing now on ESPN News. Among the stories you'll see, a historic month for Clayton Kershaw. Controversy in Mexico's loss in the World Cup. Clayton Kershaw has now thrown 28 consecutive scoreless innings. Orel Hershiser's all-time major league record is 59. Kershaw's at 28.
That was amazing how Orel did that.
End of the season, right?
10 inning game.
Yeah, end of the season on a 10 inning
Andy
game
Hawkins.
to get to 59. Yep. Kershaw, who's been remarkable, obviously, in recent weeks, 28 consecutive scoreless innings. Bryce Harper's getting close. Jeter throws out Betts.
Bryce Harper hit 3 home runs in a rehab game
yesterday down at Double-A. So the Nationals will have to figure out when Harper comes back.
He's going to play.
Does he play left or does he play center? I mean, he said, I want to play center. I'm not sure how Denard Span must have felt about that. But they could also, Zimmerman can play left, can play third, can play first right now. Matt Williams says Rendon can go from third to second. Espinosa might see some playing time cut. They can move some people around.
Who's playing left?
Zimmerman's something.
Ryan Zimmerman playing left?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, Bryce used to be a catcher, right?
Playing there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, put him wherever.
Some of the series from around baseball that concluded today. Cincinnati completed a 4-game sweep of the Giants with a 4-0 win. Homer Bailey over Tim Hudson. As mentioned earlier, the Giants have lost 15 out of 19. Quick work of Bradley there for the second out. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. And how about the Atlanta Braves completing a 4-game sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies, who scored a total of 8 runs in the 4-game series. Phillies have now lost 8 out of 10. Craig Kimbrell picked up his 24th save. Chase Utley recorded career hit number 1,500. So Atlanta half game up on the Nationals for top spot in the National League East. Dodgers and Giants are now tied atop the National League West. Dodgers beat the Cardinals again earlier today. Both of these teams trying to make up some ground on the Blue Jays and Orioles, each of whom lost earlier today. Tigers lost to Houston, so the Astros took 2 out of 3. Kansas City won. They're back within 3.5 in the Central. And Oakland's won 4 in a row. They beat Miami again today. They're now 5.5 up on the Angels atop the American League West.
There's so many average teams still in the hunt.
Yeah.
And 8-9 days ago, there was mention that the Phillies might be buyers at the trade deadline, thinking they can make a run and get in this thing. Then they go home and play like that.
They're 8 out in the division right now, and 7.5 out in the wild card race. What an inning for Matt Thornton. Does that look like us?
I don't know. If you put laces down the front of your head, I believe Aaron Rodgers could throw that thing for a touchdown.
Mine or yours?
Well,
where is it? It's over here.
I can't remember the last time I didn't have facial hair, and I don't have any on there, I don't think.
You're right. You got a little. Yeah.
Maybe they don't have gray.
Look at me. I'm giving it the thumbs up here.
Well, you're always a positive guy.
Well, it's all relative, right?
I mean, compared to the other two people in this booth, yeah.
Tom Archer, our esteemed producer, wants us to sign this. He's going to do. Are you going to display this in your home, Tom? In a room where people come to visit?
Basement.
Prominently.
Basement. You can put that in the basement. Ain't no rodents will go in there. They'll run for the hills.
Junichi Tazawa comes on in the bottom of the 8th inning. 8-5, Red Sox lead the Yankees. And the batter is Mark Teixeira, 1 for 3 with a home run. Tazawa, the 4th pitcher of the night for the Red Sox. Lackey went 5, gave up 5. Badenhop an inning, Miller an inning, and now Tazawa and Teixeira, who will be followed by McCann and Beltran. Shift on, 3 on the right side. Pedroia deep on the outfield grass.
You wonder if sorry, Dan. You wonder if Teixeira ever practices bunting. I mean, it's a 3-run game, a home run. Yeah, get you within 2, but you need more than that. You wonder if he ever thought about maybe just pushing one down the third baseline.
Well, Ortiz has done it a handful of times in his career.
I think he bunted for a double last year on one of those. That's I mean, if you can just get it past Tazawa.
Like a little half swing chop kind of just down the line.
I think a softball slapper.
Yeah.
He did that in one of our games this year. Oh, Ibar.
Instead, a ground ball to first. And the shovel to Tazawa covering for the first out. The MLB Fan Cave is back. Check out all the latest cave happenings at MLBFanCave.com. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service celebrating 12 years. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. Brian McCann 0 for 2 with a walk. So they've got a different alignment on McCann. The third baseman Holt is still way off the line, but the shortstop Drew is back on his side of the bag barely, and Pedroia is not playing as deep or quite as much to pull as he was on Teixeira.
Late in the game, they might be getting tired. It's working.
Napoli will take this one himself. There's been some grumbling in the Bronx tonight, both with the relievers' inability to throw strikes at times and with some of these veteran hitters who are still not performing, as they say, like the back of the bubblegum card says, or the back of the baseball. Some people can't even watch.
Yeah, well. Yeah, she's seen enough.
She's staying optimistic. She's trying.
That would have been a better look for our caricature.
There's Beltran.
What possesses people to do that? Hey,
to draw caricatures?
No, to paint their face stuff for a game.
You never did that?
Oh, who was I going to watch?
You'd go to Morgantown to see some West Virginia games?
No. Tell me when Jeter's up, hon. What she's saying.
And a base hit into right field. The third hit of the ball game for Carlos Beltran.
Home run, a check swing, and a broken bat. Got them all covered.
Got everything but the triple right now. Activity in the Yankee pen. They're down 8-5, bottom 8. The closer, David Robertson, alongside Jose Ramirez. Here's Kelly Johnson. A couple of strikeouts and a base hit. Giddy up on that fastball. It's a ball and a strike.
Zawa's feeling pretty fresh. 94, 93. It's a steady pace he's working.
Well, they've had some slow workers over the years.
Sometimes you tell yourself when you're at home, you know, between innings, I can run to the bathroom real quick. With Tazawa, you can do that between pitches and get something to drink and fix a 5-course meal. Look, see, he's feeling the same thing. Look at that. Clean shaven when this one started, Danny boy.
And the inning is over. We will go to the top of the 9th in the Bronx. 8-5. The Red Sox are leading the Yankees. Special ticket offers. Head to the ballpark with your friends and family. Go to MLB.com/Sunday. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at bat for your mobile device. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV.
You know, we've done a game in the bleachers in Wrigley.
True.
I guess is this a surprise?
I don't know. Is this a surprise, Arch? Maybe a surprise. We're doing something else. We can say it. All right. Tom Archer says we can tell people we're going to do a game for the Monster. From the seats atop the Monster, August 3rd, I believe. August 3rd, when we're at Fenway.
We should do it from the blimp.
We should do it from the blimp. You can't get steak in the blimp. You can't get in-game food in the blimp.
I didn't bring it with me.
Here's Jose Ramirez.
I can't bring it with me?
Would you really do a game? If they said tomorrow, you want to do next week's game from the blimp, you would say okay? No,
that's up pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah. There's Nava.
Or we can just...
I'm happy right here, actually. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
Nava has singled, flied out, walked, and struck out. He'll be followed by Pedroia and Ortiz here in the ninth inning. 8-5 Red Sox.
Just think about how good you could break down a bunt play, though, from the blimp.
Well, here's the thing. There's a camera up there, whether we're up there or not. So you can do the same. You can break it down the same.
I know, but it'd be fun to be up there. Right. You have no desire to go to a blimp?
Zero. Admire it. Great shots.
You
Love
don't
having
like
it with
heights?
us. No.
You ever parasail?
No. Yes, once. Yeah. Once.
Yeah,
have you done it?
Yeah,
once. Yeah.
And I was screaming like a little baby.
Me too.
And my son was, I think he was 10 and my daughter was 7. They were laughing so hard at me. But it was a 3-person thing.
Well, they were with you.
It was really a 4-person thing. I took up 2. But they were laughing so hard. They couldn't believe I was screaming like I was screaming. And some not good words. It was fine. He got out about 200 feet, and then the next thing you know...
A little gust of wind and up.
No, the next thing you know, they gunned the boat, and we're up like, I don't know how high, but I mean, I was scared to death.
Nava fouls it back. Ramirez, a 6'1", 24-year-old right-hander from the Dominican Republic, making his 7th Major League appearance. A couple of different stints with the Yankees this year. Has also pitched down in AAA at Scranton Wilkes-Barre.
Played a rehab game there. Scranton.
96-mile-an-hour fastball
with movement.
Boy, every time you see a guy, so many relievers are throwing 94, 95, 96.
What Jim Thome told me a couple years ago. I said, "What's changed from when you came up to now?" He said, "They rush guys out of the bullpen, lefties and righties. They're all throwing 96 to 100 with movement."
Walked him.
But they will do that too, I guess. Well, why not?
So here comes Pedroia, who's had a very good night. He is 3 for 3 and has a sacrifice fly. He has driven in 3 runs. And he's played some very good defense as well. What a huge key to their second half it would be. As he told you a little bit earlier, last couple of weeks, the wrist is feeling really good. If he gets healthier and gets back to being the Pedroia that the Red Sox have come to know over the years.
That was pretty much the theme in the Red Sox clubhouse. They're giving us a chance. They haven't buried us yet.
The other teams in the East.
The other teams in the East.
Yeah.
And you have to think that the defending world champs will go on some sort of run at some point this season.
Blue Jays lost today to the White Sox, lost 3 out of 4 in that series. The Orioles lost to the Rays. So the Yankees are just a game and a half out of first now, and as bad as the first half has been for the Red Sox, they're only 6.5 out. Now that was actually a slider, and it actually wasn't that far inside, but obviously Pedroia just didn't pick it up quickly because he was really bailing on a pitch.
You see the spin. It's one of those, it's a backup slider. He tries to make that ball go down and away, and sometimes I don't know how they do it. And believe me, pitchers told me if they knew it, they can do it. They can throw it and knew when it could do that. You might not ever get a hit off of him. Just defies everything we know. Throw a ball with spin to break, and it goes the other way. I wish they quit moving that home plate. Apparently these pitchers can't find it.
And Ramirez walks the first two batters he faces. For the game, John Kruk down in the field talking hitting approach with Dustin Pedroia.
Well, I mean, I don't have the leverage that a lot of bigger guys have. So, I mean, if I sit back and just try to drop the barrel on it, you know, I can't do as much damage as they can. So I got to put my 165 pounds into the ball rather than, you know, dropping the barrel and getting extended, because those, you know, they're a lot stronger than I am. So I try to, you know, use my hips and stay back on the ball and drive it.
And he's done that awfully well over the years.
Yeah, and the question was, you know, a lot of guys when they attack a ball low in the strike zone, they just drop the head of the bat on it. He actually goes and approaches that ball with his legs. He crouches down, he gets that back knee basically on the ground, and he said that's the only way he can get any sort of leverage on it because he's not big. And here's what we're talking about. You see how he goes after this low pitch right here. Watch his back leg. How he just bends that back leg down to go down and get that ball. And you see the rotation of hips, which he mentioned. That's how he gets his power.
Because he's not one of those big guys like this guy.
No. Now he can drop the head on a low pitch.
And he hit one a mile earlier tonight, back in the third inning.
But yeah, you're just thankful that Dustin Pedroia coming up didn't have a coach that said, well, you can't collapse your back leg like that. You'll never be able to hit and make a change.
Swings through 97 for the first out.
Here's what we've been talking about. David Ortiz, he grounded into the double play first at bat on a pull-off ball away. And here's a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Yes, it's away, but look at the hip. Look at David Ortiz's hip. He's pulling off. He's trying to cheat to get the balls inside so he can try to drive balls, try to pull balls. And now, you know, they throw him away. They had great success. The problem is Whitley's second at bat with Ortiz. He tried to throw that fastball in. I mean, there's a swing right there. I mean, he was looking something middle in. He was going to try to hit it, like you said, out of this ballpark, and he just got a really good pull-off going right now with his hip, and that's why he can't get to that outside pitch.
Here's Napoli.
I had a whole summer of that swing one year.
Now, you weren't a pull hitter.
That year I was.
What'd you hit that year?
240.
And
no power.
And a 300 career hitter. It took a whole year? You just couldn't fix it during the year?
No, I wanted to see how good the second basemen were in the National League.
Slider a little bit high, and it's 2-1 on Napoli. Eight runs, 12 hits, and an error for the Red Sox. 5 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Yankees. Boston looking to take 2 out of 3 here in the Bronx.
That's beautiful. I'm guessing fastball. If he throws it, I'm swinging. If it don't hit me, I'm going to try to hit it. I mean, look at this. Look at this swing. I mean, that pitch is over his head. Look how high this pitch is. I mean, that's about chin high, shoulder high. And he was trying to hit that thing as far as he could hit it.
Runners at first and second with one out here in the top of the ninth. Napoli trying to get a hold of one against Ramirez. He got him. And no argument from Napoli.
I think they got it figured out. It takes a couple hitters to get locked in.
Sports Center is coming up next year on ESPN, including a look at a great stretch for Clayton Kershaw. He added to some pretty impressive numbers in his start against the Cardinals today, and also a little controversy in Mexico's loss in the World Cup. 2 on, 2 out as you look down upon Yankee Stadium, top of the ninth. And the batter is A.J. Pierzynski. He's 1 for 4 tonight. Yankee pitchers, 6 of them, have thrown 193 pitches in this game. They have walked 8.
Is that all? They went 3-2 on every other hitter, though.
If he can command that fastball, he's got a chance to be something.
He's got some great movement, yeah, and that's, you hope that comes with as the year progresses on, because what another weapon in the bullpen the Yankees could have.
Shallow left, and the inning is over. To the bottom of the ninth at Yankee Stadium, scheduled Roberts, Ichiro, Gardner, 8, 9, and 1. A 3-run deficit for the Yankees, and it's expected they will face the closer for the Boston Red Sox, Koji Uehara, now making his way in from the left field bullpen. Baseball on ESPN. The Red Sox lead the Yankees 8-5. And Scholl, John Kruk, Buster Olney. And last chance for the Yankees. But they'll face one of the best in the business. And Koji Uehara. 17 saves on the season, a 1.23 ERA. And he's slipping a little bit. His strikeout to walk ratio is only about 9-1 this year. 47 strikeouts, 5 walks.
They want to think about, trade deadline, maybe looking for a closer. That's a great feeling when you come in. Look, he has blown one save, but he ain't going to walk no one. And if they put it in play, you got a chance. That'd be such a beautiful thing as a defender.
Ryan Roberts leads it off. If it holds up, Lackey gets the win. Whitley would take the loss. It is a save situation for Uehara. Again, the amazing thing about him, he's a 2-pitch guy. He's not overpowering. But you get a lot of funny swings and misses. You get a lot of funny takes. He just seems to be out-thinking hitters. Ground ball to second. One down. Go back a year. Include the postseason. And get a load of these numbers.
122 strikeouts, only 7 walks.
Now Ichiro.
How do you blow 3 saves and only have a .76 ERA?
Ichiro was guessing. He was trying to drive one out of here. He's 2 for 10 with 4 strikeouts in his career against his countryman Uehara.
You see that fastball right there on the gun, 89 miles an hour. You saw that ball got on Ichiro so quick. I mean, it looks like he's throwing 102 miles an hour. I don't know how the deception, or I don't know how it does it. But you're right, they don't get good swings off his fastball. And then he throws the split changeup,
and sometimes he's got the split in your mind so much that he freezes you with an 87 mile an hour fastball for strike 3. They can't pull the trigger. It's pitching. It's great.
But great. John Lackey was throwing 93, 94. It looked like he was throwing 100.
Check swing foul off on the splitter.
Remember Todd Jones?
Yeah.
Todd Jones looked like he was throwing 150 every time I faced him. It just got on you so quick.
And what was it? What does that?
92, 93.
But what makes a ball seem like it's getting on you? I have no idea.
I don't know.
It sounds funny, but he's almost got him set up for a fastball.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's setting him up for the heater.
No. Got him with the splitter.
Ichiro was thinking with us.
Yeah.
You see the split finger, and you watch his ball tumble and go away from Ichiro. I mean, that's the way you teach it, isn't it? Watch Ichiro both feet almost off the ground when he's attacking that ball. It's amazing. At 88, looks like 100 miles an hour.
There's Gardner.
And you thing you like about him, it's 8-5. He knows he has runs to work with, and he's just first ball, fastball, strike. Because he knows the Yankees veteran guys are probably taking, but he walks one guy, two guys maybe. A year. Yeah. He's not going to walk you, so you got to go up there and be aggressive.
Yankees down to their last out. Boston hangs on. What a good day for them. A win for them, and losses for all three teams ahead of them in the American League East, with the Orioles and Blue Jays also losing today. The same situation 2 days in a row. The Red Sox would be 6 out, only 6 games out, if they win this one. Doesn't look like you're going to need 95, 96 wins to win the American League East this year.
No. 90 might do it. I'm going to go out and talk to Koji. 3-1.
Rays and Yankees tomorrow night. Monday Night Baseball here on ESPN. Cubs and Red Sox Wednesday. And this should do it. And it does. Uehara picks up save number 18, and the Red Sox come into the Bronx and take 2 out of 3. Move within 6 games of the 500 mark, and also 6 games of first place in the American League East. Major League Baseball coverage, as mentioned, continues tomorrow night on ESPN as the Rays come to the Bronx and take on the Yankees at 7 Eastern. Then you can catch up on all the latest baseball news with Baseball Tonight following the game here on ESPN. Coming up next here tonight is Sports Center. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Buster Olney, and our entire crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying so long from the Bronx.